some big blowout, and it seemed to go back and forth pretty frequently. There was never an extended period of time where it was one or the other.
What, if any, changes did you observe in Amber over the period of her relationship with Johnny?
At first, Amber was Amber. She was loud, fun, funny. She laughed a lot. She was just this happy, bright, fun-loving thing, always surrounded by friends. And then it was a progression that took over such a long period of time, and it was so slow. In hindsight, it was like watching a slow-motion gunshot. She suddenly stopped sleeping as much. She wasn't as funny. She wasn't as loud. She wasn't as gregarious as she used to be. Cut to the end of their relationship, she was so physically unwell. She maybe weighed 100 pounds soaking wet. She was emaciated. She wasn't sleeping. She had developed a heart condition, and her eyes were sunken in. She just looked like two different.
Lack of foundation calls for hearsay.
She's giving her observations.
Well, heart condition. I'll sustain as to heart condition.
Okay. Other than the heart condition, please continue.
She just, if you were to do a photograph side by side, you would see two very different people. And people that knew her throughout the entirety of their relationships, all the same thing.
It's funny,
What, if
Johnny
any,
looks at her a
observations
lot.
did you make about Mr. Depp's
Johnny's looking at her a lot.
Mr. Depp exhibiting controlling behavior over the course of their relationship relating to Amber's clothing?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading.
What, if any, observations did she
Sustain
make
the
about?
I'll sustain the objection.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp's treatment of Amber relating to clothing?
At first, it would be like light jokes, or, she left the house wearing something like, oh, you're going to wear that, or just some joke. It was very subtle, And then over time, again, just like the progression of their relationship, it just intensified. Then suddenly it's, they have the same stylist. He and I forgot her name, but suddenly they have the same stylist, and he had been essentially controlling what she wore to events and things like that. So she went from being able to wear whatever the hell she wanted, and then suddenly she's wearing anything that his stylist wanted her to wear, or wanted him to wear. And her style over time just got more and more conservative.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp with respect to Amber's work?
That too was one thing. At first, he was saying he was protective over the kinds of jobs she was taking. Oh, that's not going to be good for her career. That's not going to be good for this. Not going to be good for that. And then suddenly he has a problem with her taking any sort of job or any sort of audition. And then it became every time that she even thought about taking a meeting, it was another fight. He would often say things like, I don't even understand why she needs to work. I'll take care of her. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of everyone else. She doesn't need to work at all. It was one of those things that he was, at the end, vehemently against her working at all.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp's treatment of Amber with respect to friends?
Again, these are all things that just very slowly over time just changed. At first,
I have to say,
he
this
was
is
very
helping a little
inclusive
bit.
of all of us. At one point, we all lived downtown together in
this
these
is helping
beautiful
a little bit
lofts.
the Hamburg
At first,
camp, I have to say.
that was part of the relationship, was getting to know him and him getting to know us. And then just, again, slowly over time, he took issue with Brandon at one point, and then Brandon wasn't allowed in the fold. Time went on, he had an issue with Io. Io wasn't allowed in the fold anymore. And then at some point, even me, he had accused me of doing something horrendous that I had never done. And then suddenly, I'm not allowed around anymore. And just over time, she had such a small network of people that were there to support her. It was hard to watch.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp's attitude or treatment of Amber with respect to her health? Amber was
she was a pretty healthy person at first. She didn't have any medical issues that, didn't need intervention of any sort. But in one of Johnny's attempts to get sober, he had employed Dr. Kipper, who had these nurses, and he had a personal nurse that would administer medication, and I think the intention was to make sure that he stayed clean and
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Without discussing what
Sustain
the
the objection.
intentions were, just go ahead and give us what your observations were with respect to Mr. Depp, with respect to Amber's health.
Sure. All of a sudden, for really unclear reasons, Amber had her own personal nurse just administering medication, and from what I saw, it was strange. I didn't think Amber needed, medication on the daily or whatever. And then all of a sudden, she has a therapist that is employed by Dr. Kipper. Even her medical treatment was somehow controlled by or paid for by Johnny.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation with respect to the control. Was to control, but paid
She
for.
looks really nervous, the sister.
Okay, thank you.
Very agitated.
What, if anything, did Mr. Depp say about Amber's electronic devices?
Well, every time they fought or had an argument, a device was going to get smashed. She lost a phone, a tablet, a computer. You could almost guarantee that something would get destroyed when they fought. Very often there were fights were
This is
at
the
least
sister of Amber Heard.
in part surrounded by text messages or
Whitney.
something that he would find on her phones or whatever. And at some point she wasn't even allowed to have passwords on her phone, or if she did have a password, it was something really simple that
honestly,
he
I think
memorized.
the
But there was
previous,
zero expectation of
testimony
privacy for her
was more
in terms of what
credible
was
than
on her
this
device
already.
or
This is
accessibility
already
of her
getting
devices.
exaggerated again.
How many times did you observe Mr. Depp drunk?
Countless. I mean,
No, I think she will
too
be
many times for me to
cross-examined
quantify.
maybe tomorrow.
How many
or today.
times did you observe Mr. Depp high on drugs?
again, it would be really hard to put a number to that. It was a lot.
And
Johnny
what
is looking
types
at
of
her a
drugs
lot
did
because
Mr.
I think
Depp
probably
use to
he
your
trusted
knowledge
her.
and your observation?
Looks like he trusted her.
Well,
and now he's,
personally,
he's, like,
I've done
baffled.
cocaine and drank with him on
You
a number
see?
of occasions. So
Now he's baffled of the betrayal.
He
Look at the
almost
face.
always had weed of some sort, marijuana, like, joints or whatever. I have seen him take MDMA on an
I have seen
occasion,
them.
shrooms as well.
Oh my God.
I once saw him consume a Ziploc bag that had a bunch of just unknown pills, some prescription, some not. He just took them all at once to see what would happen,
Johnny
and he
Depp
laughed
looks
about
pissed,
it.
I have to say.
So those are what I can recall.
Okay. Now, you said that you also did cocaine with Mr. Depp, is that correct?
Yes.
What, if any, observations did you make
They did-
as to what
Oh,
Mr.
man.
Depp carried in his pockets?
This is hilarious. They
Well,
were consuming
he
together.
Always had cigarettes or rolling papers. When I say cigarettes, I mean the tobacco and rolling papers. He always had a joint on him. If he was in a phase of using coke, he would carry around a little pill box that had his cocaine in it. He always had a
Wait, I put up
pocket
the volume
knife,
a little bit.
a lighter, and it's about what I can recall.
Okay. What, if any, behavior
man.
changes did you observe when Mr. Depp had been drinking alcohol or using drugs?
It's really
Like I said, it
interesting.
was,
Johnny is looking
a
at
completely
her.
different version.
This is the first time I see Johnny
He was almost
looking at the
unrecognizable when
testimony
he was
this
drinking
much.
and using to an excess. If it was alcohol and coke, he would slur. He would go on these paranoid, delusional rants about things that didn't make any sense. His speech would be slurred. I almost never knew him to use cocaine without drinking. Those were generally combined. When he would smoke weed, he was much more relaxed. He was kind of what you would expect, happy on a couch, laughing. But when he was drinking,
Johnny
he would
looks
just
really
get very
hurt.
angry.
Look at that.
And he would just say really nasty, unkind things. And it almost didn't, usually about Amber, sometimes about me, but it almost didn't matter if she was in the room or not. He would just say really horrible horrible, horrible things about her or to her.
Can you give the jury a few examples that you can recall?
Pardon my language, fucking cunt. He called her a fucking used up trash bag, slimy whore, saggy whore, just, fucking cunt
Johnny
was
is like
thrown out a bunch.
looks like he's amused.
Just horrible things like that.
and angry.
I'm going to take you to March 21st, 2013. We've called it the painting or Keith Richards incident. When did you arrive at the Orange apartment on March 21st,
But
2013?
this can sway
It
the
was sometime in
jury
the
a little bit on
afternoon.
the other side. It's
It was sometime in the
it's like
afternoon.
things are.
I came in and Orange was typically a very neat, clean place, but as soon as I walked in, there was smoke in the air. Remember, it smelled like cigarette smoke and there was smoke in the air. So somebody had been smoking inside, which was odd because Amber and I don't smoke, and Johnny used to always just go outside to smoke. But walking a little bit further in, there was like furniture askew. Going into the kitchen, there was, Johnny was sat at our little breakfast nook table that we had there, and he was wearing glasses. He had, there was cocaine in front of him. There was booze in front of him, journal, like no newspaper, things like that, just kind of scattered around at the table. And I sat down to talk to him to see what was going on. And it was really hard to understand what he was getting at. It was really clear that he had been drinking for some time. His speech was slurred. And again, it was really hard to follow what he was trying to tell me. At first, he seemed to be upset that my sister had been photographed with our friend Marie in France. He then started saying that it must have meant that she was having an affair with her, and everyone would be laughing at her. And this woman, her father was a French politician, so he then starts rambling on about, he knows what her father's up to, and her this, that, and the other. And again, it was just this strange paranoid tailspin is the only way I can describe it. That just, it wasn't true. My sister wasn't having an affair with this person.
Objection, Your Honor. I think it's pretty non-responsive at this point.
All right. Next question. Sustain the objection.
Please describe what your conversations were and your observations were with Mr. Depp.
So as I'm sitting there talking to him, Amber is in the kitchen, and she's not sat at the table or anything. She's kind of hanging back, and Johnny's still talking to me about what the problem was.
Yeah,
and then
Rodolfo,
all of a
I
sudden the
agree with
focus
you.
shifts to this painting that has been on the wall ever since Amber and I moved in. And the painting was done by one of my sister's exes. So he was convinced that it was on the wall to taunt him, to tease him, and how disrespectful that he had to wake up next to this painting. And it surely meant that Amber and Tasha were back together again, which of course was not true. But he was then upset about that. He was upset about this painting that was on the wall. I was trying to talk to him, not only to just try to figure out what was going on, but I was trying to get him out of the house because he was already very late for filming this documentary that was being shot at one of his houses.
Was that with Keith Richards?
Correct.
Okay.
That was my understanding of it.
Please continue.
So for hours we sat there. I was trying to, talk to him.
It's funny because they both see
Make
that
him
they
feel like
can
everything
really
was
talk.
okay. Just try to
They
get
can
him
really
out of the
talk
house.
fast.
His assistant kept coming in and out at one point. And all the while, Amber is just in the kitchen. She's like giving us space, but she's in earshot, and he's saying these things about her. And at one point, she tries to come over to like check on him, and she kind of braces him from behind, and he's just like, fuck off, and continues to say these things about her. And again, we sat there forever, and eventually we did get him to leave the house. So, but he insisted that Amber come too, and that if they were going to work it out, she'd have to be there, and they would talk about it at some other point, I guess.
Let me just stop you for a minute. What, if any, injuries did you observe on Amber at that time?
At the time, it was before I had a real understanding of what was going on. It was pretty, I didn't know, frankly. And her face was swollen, and but I didn't, and it was kind of red. I thought she had just been crying. And her lip did appear to be cut, but again, that at the time, that wasn't what we were trying to do. It wouldn't have been appropriate to, talk to her about it or anything. That wasn't my focus, frankly. My focus was just sitting there trying to figure out what he was upset about and get him out of the house.
So how long were you at Orange with Mr. Depp and Amber before he left to go to the Keith Richards?
A few hours. I couldn't say, maybe around like 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
It took a minute.
Now, did you accompany Mr. Depp over to the recording, or did you stay?
I did.
And did
Amber-
She's hyper.
Did Amber
man.
go too?
What's in that
Correct.
water?
That was part of the condition of him leaving, is that Amber had to go with us.
All right. Well, please describe to the jury what happened next then on your ride over there.
So Amber and Johnny were sitting in the back. I was in the front with Sterling, the driver. And they weren't saying much back there. There was music playing pretty loudly.
So, yeah, I agree with you.
So I couldn't really hear what was going on back there. But at some point I heard the back door open, or the back window open, and Johnny is holding our dog out the window. And I
agree.
froze.
I mean, being
I was
nervous, it's a
scared,
totally
'cause I
normal
just remember
thing. It doesn't
thinking
mean
I knew how
necessarily anything.
inebriated
It's just,
he was, and the dog was very
an
small. I
observation.
thought if she twitched or if he lost her somehow, she was just going to go out the window. And Amber, of course, was just saying
Objection, Your Honor.
I just think that the
not after he's told
other
the truth of the matter,
testimony of
asserted, Your
the
Honor.
ex-husband
Objection.
of
Don't say what
Rochelle
Amber said. Just go ahead and
was a
continue
little bit more
with
believable.
your observations.
He brought the dog back into the car.
This one again
and he
becomes
was
like
just
all
laughing.
like
This really scary,
Amber
loud,
did everything right,
like it was almost
Johnny
like a
did
cackle.
everything wrong.
And,
Seems like
He then made some joke
way
about
more
putting her in the
exaggerated,
microwave.
where Johnny
And that
did
was
everything
the
like
joke after that was putting the dog in the microwave.
Okay.
awful. Like it was just
During
an awful
the year
person.
2013, what, if any, marks did you observe on Amber? Any injuries?
But it's
or
important
signs
to
of
listen to this,
markings,
you know,
anything
like
that?
Occasionally I'd see bruising, cut lips, split lips, weird
the sister
marks,
cannot be on the
burns,
side of
or,
Johnny,
I don't
you know,
know,
you
on
just
her
can't,
arm,
so,
scratches on her arm, things like
yeah.
that. It was just weird, and it was periodic. It wasn't like a constant thing, but there were injuries to her.
And what, if anything, did you do? Did you ask her about them?
I did at some point confront her and ask her, and she
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Don't tell
I also
us.
like this new lawyer of Johnny. She's pretty
But you did
pragmatic,
ask her about them.
but effective. I like her.
Objection,
Okay.
Your Honor. Same objection. Next question.
That's
fine.
That's okay.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, I'm going to take you to June 2013, Hicksville. Were you in attendance at that event with Mr. Depp and Amber?
yes.
Please describe for the jury what you can recall.
I think
from
Johnny
that
really
event.
feels betrayed.
So
the
Hicksville
look he
is
had
like
in the
this,
beginning was quite telling
It's
for
this
me.
like collection of themed Airstreams. It's like a little, it's in the middle of the desert. It's just like a fun little place to go. So we went with a group of our friends. And yeah, so each one of us had our own little Airstream or whatever. So
Hey, Light Dweller,
my
I
partner and
suggest
at the
you
time, we
go
got
watch
there
another
last. So as we're going around
stream.
checking out the different Airstreams,
Don't tell me
'cause,
what to do
again,
on my
each one of them
stream.
had a different theme, so it was kind of fun to see, who was staying in which theme or whatever. I open Amber and Johnny's, and there's cocaine on the table. And I didn't really think much of it at the time. I was just like, all right, fine. We're all here to have fun. And that night, we sat around the campfire. Everyone was drinking. Some people were taking shrooms, and then I drank too much, and I went to bed early before everyone else. And then the next day, when everyone was cleaning up, I had heard about something that had happened the night before, and an altercation that
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Don't tell us what you heard. Go ahead and just tell the jury what you observed.
I observed people cleaning up after what appeared to be just a night of friends hanging out. I then went to my sister's trailer, where she was staying with Johnny, and it it looked like a bomb went off in there. There was broken things, things had been skewed. It just looked incredibly messy. It looked like somebody had ransacked it. That's what I observed.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Now I'm going to take you to September 2013. What, if anything, did you do with Mr. Depp relating to going to London?
Wow, she's drinking a lot of water,
So
man.
September
Poor thing.
2013, that was around the time of my birthday. Amber was filming in London, and she wasn't able to make it back for my birthday. And it was also a friend of ours, Io, also has a birthday the same time, or around the same time as me. And Johnny
Thank
thought
you,
it would
guys.
be great to load up and surprise Amber on set. He thought she would really enjoy it, and so that's what we did. We loaded up, we went on a plane that he chartered, and I believe my father was with us as well. And yeah, Johnny and I drank and did a lot of cocaine on that plane, and
Yeah, all
I ended
happily
up
doing
passing
drugs
out, but,
together.
we get to London, and we had it was wonderful to see Amber, and we had a dinner that night at the hotel that we were staying at, or it was either that night or the next night. I can't remember exactly, but.
Jennifer,
At one
I'm looking.
point,
I'm waiting
Johnny
for the
picked up a
cross
steak
here as
knife
well.
and he hurled it at his assistant.
Wow.
Missed him, but obviously Nathan got upset
What?
and he left, and he was upset as well.
Wow.
And a fight broke out between Amber and Johnny that night. I didn't witness it. I wasn't there. I knew that they
Objection,
were.
Your Honor, lack of foundation. All right, I'll sustain the objection.
Okay,
Next question.
So you can't tell us about it if you weren't there. So
Okay.
what happened next that you were aware of?
I left sometime after that, and when I touched down in Los Angeles, I learned that they had
Objection, Your Honor.
Not offered to prove the truth of the
I'll
matter,
sustain
Your
the
Honor.
objection. Next question.
The judge has had enough.
When did they get engaged?
They got engaged at some point when I was on the plane. I left London. By the time I landed in London, they were engaged.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to jump all the way to November 2014, the 2014 Hollywood
So they
Film
fought on the
Awards.
plane, and then when they landed,
What,
they
if
got
any, involvement
engaged.
did you
That makes
have
sense.
with Mr. Depp relating to the Hollywood Film Awards?
Oh my God.
I was called over to where he was getting ready, 80.
And when you say 80, are we talking about Sweetser?
Yes, that's one of the houses that is on that street that Johnny had. He had several houses on that street. 80 was the one that he referred to as like the man cave. That's where he
Thank you,
spent a lot of
best man
time.
ever.
So I was summoned to 80, again, following a fight that he and my sister were having. And
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation.
Poor Elaine.
Just go on, just don't talk about what you weren't party to. You got
Okay,
there, please tell the
Sustain the
jury.
objection. Go ahead.
Okay, please tell the jury what you observed, what happened
Sure.
when you were there.
Sure. When I got there, Johnny was outside and he was very drunk already, and he was continuing to drink. He was again rambling about my sister having affairs with people that it just wasn't true, and
Oh my
just kept
God.
saying things. It was, that she doesn't need to work, and he doesn't understand why she continues to take jobs. She must be doing it to insult him or to hurt him, or she's only taking these jobs because she wants to meet people. I don't know. The entire time that we were talking, his sister and his,
could Johnny be this
assistants at one
insecure?
point, everyone was
I
trying to
mean,
get him out of the
this
house
is
because he was already very
This
late
is an
for this.
insecure man, what I hear.
But eventually
And
they did get him to leave
if
the house.
Johnny is this insecure,
And,
like I'm
yeah,
switching off
I
right
saw
now.
the award show
I don't
later
even
at
want to
some
know what's
point.
happening
And what
next.
did
I'm
you
just switching
observe
off
when you watched
right
the
now.
award show?
You can't be this
Unfortunately, an
insecure and
extension
be
of what I
Jack
had seen at
Sparrow.
the house. He was still very drunk, actually a little bit more drunk than when I saw him at the house.
And what was he doing that caused you to believe he was very drunk?
Well, he was drinking the entire time that we were talking, And, in general, at this point, I had understood what Johnny looks like when he's drunk. He's stammering. His speech was hard to understand. He was slurring. He was super unsteady on his feet. I recognize what he looks like when he's drunk.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you to March 23rd, 2015. And at this time, were you living at
I'm
the
listening to
penthouse
her.
suite?
I'm paying
I
attention.
was.
But
When approximately did you move into
she
the
finished like a
penthouse?
bottle of water like in 5 minutes.
I actually don't know for sure when I moved in. I would take me a minute to remember. It was sometime in 14, I think.
Okay. And so as of March
Honestly,
23rd,
she's a
2015,
little bit
you're
too
living there,
agitated
correct?
now. I start to
Yes.
see that
And-
she's a
and
little bit
where-
too agitated.
Where are you living in those penthouse suites? What is it called?
So I was in what they call PH4. The layout is, the entire top floor of this building. Johnny owns them all, and he was kind enough to let us all live there. So I was in PH4. Amber and Johnny were in PH3. I believe Isaac was in 2, and Rocky and Josh were in 1. But the only ones that actually connected were 3, 4, and 5. So again, I was kind of sandwiched between where Johnny and Amber stayed and Amber's basically closet. So basically you had to cut through to get to one point to the other. So I was sleeping. I woke up to Amber in my bedroom saying, "Can you believe he's cheating on me?"
Objection, Your Honor.
You're not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Thank you.
Overruled. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Please continue.
She said something.
She said overruled. It's okay
Oh.
for you to say what.
Oh,
just
sorry.
Just briefly what you just explained.
I woke up to her saying, "Can you believe he's cheating on me? Your
Man, my
fucking
anxiety
brother
is
cheating
flaring
on me."
up listening to this woman.
I got up. I told her to stay right there.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter
That's
asserted.
overruled for that statement. Go ahead.
Please continue.
I instructed her to stay in my apartment while I go and talk to Johnny. So I leave PH4. I leave her in PH4.
And let me just stop. Are you sober, drunk? Have you been drinking?
Oh, rare occasions where I was sober. I was in the middle of the night. I was asleep.
Oh my God,
I'm sorry,
she
I'm
had
not
the
sure that I
sleep.
understood your question. So you were sober?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Please continue.
To me, sounded like
So
it
I
was
go
a
to
rare
PH5
occasion that I was
where,
sober.
Amber,
I understood the contrary.
Johnny, Debbie and Travis were all standing in the kitchen of PH5. I went down there to talk to him, and again, I can tell he's clearly drunk, and he has a bottle of alcohol of some sort in front of him as well. And again, he's talking to me about how Amber found these text messages between him and a woman called Rochelle, and then he starts saying
To me,
that
sounds
this
like a little
woman
bit
was
rehearsed,
meaningless,
this whole story.
it wasn't anything special.
can't wait
She's
for
nothing special.
cross-examination.
But then he immediately shifted to, well, Amber pushed me. Amber made me do it. Yeah, of course I'm cheating on her. Whatever. And it suddenly became about Amber making him do it. At some point, then Amber is on the mezzanine level of PH5. So it's kind of hard to explain. So the kitchen's down here and the mezzanine's up here. So she's there. It's her little office nook, and she starts shouting at him, saying,
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, Your Honor. She's screaming expletives at him. I mean, that's not offered
All
to
right.
prove the truth.
Overruled.
Thank you. Please continue.
they're saying horrible things to one another. Fuck you. He's calling her a fucking whore, fucking cunt, used up trash bag, whatever. They were saying horrible things to one another. She was calling him old and
Yeah,
fat.
why don't you tell us
It was a
also
fight. They
what
were
she
saying
was
really
calling
nasty
him?
things to one another.
That would be
I
helpful.
leave them in the kitchen to go up the stairs. Was trying to calm Amber down, hopefully get her back into my apartment. And Debbie had come up with me.
Ciao, man.
And Debbie, who's Debbie?
Debbie was his nurse at the
Debbie
time.
Lloyd?
Yes, I believe that was her name.
Okay.
So we're with Amber on the mezzanine level.
I'm sorry, just so we know who where is. Is it you and Debbie that are with Amber, or is it?
Yes, Debbie, Amber, and I are all on the little mezzanine
Yeah,
area.
everything seems too
And
exaggerated
as I mentioned,
here
the
now.
mezzanine overlooks
Again,
the kitchen and
like
the living
Amber
room.
does, you know?
So Johnny then hurls a Red Bull can and it hits Debbie in the back. She didn't even react. She didn't really seem to notice. But I'm standing up there talking, or I'm standing up there, I'm at the top of the stairs with my back to the stairs. And that's when Johnny runs up the stairs. And again, I'm facing Amber. He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my fucking sister." She smacks him, lands one. And then he grabs, at that point, that's when Travis runs up the stairs after Amber landed one. But by that time, Johnny had already grabbed Amber by the hair with one hand and was whacking her
She's telling
repeatedly
a
in the
different
face with
story.
the other as I was standing there. Travis pulls them apart. I get Amber into mine. I close the doors behind me and lock them. I then hear Johnny's voice shouting.
Never mind, withdraw. Okay, sorry.
I hear Johnny's voice shouting, I fucking hate you. I hate you both. You fucking cunts. You fucking whores. And I hear crashing. I hear crashing and banging and smashing, and he starts screaming like an animal. And I then just moved Amber into the next room, and I just kept her there all night. The next day, I go, and I see her closet has been completely destroyed. Racks were overturned. Yeah, one of the clothing racks had been like tossed down the stairs. There was
We saw
art
the
off
pictures.
the wall. And down in the kitchen there was broken glass. Like it just. the place was
Remember that
destroyed.
those pictures
Michelle, can you
refer
bring up
to this
Defendant's
incident.
Exhibit 400?
Now we're gonna say again a little bit of dirt on the carpet.
Whitney, do you recognize this text exchange here?
I do.
Okay, and it's on March 23, 2015 at 6:57, is
Oh
that
man,
correct?
the cross-examination.
Okay, could you describe,
please.
just
Objection, Your Honor.
identify it, please?
Yep, sorry, on hearsay grounds. All right, you want to approach? We'll just take a look.
Well, again, I want to say the previous testimony was much more credible. I think actually did much better for probably even Amber Heard, because it seemed less bias, you know. The sister is back, the sister's looking at the lawyers, looking at Johnny. Johnny was looking a lot at her like, wow, can't believe we did all this thing together, we had fun and everything, now you're standing there with that face and just backstab me like that. That's the face, you might think like Johnny was trying to intimidate her or something, but in the very beginning, Johnny was looking with that face of almost disgust for being betrayed. It's like, wow, like after all the stuff, we did together and I trusted you, you seemed like a buddy and everything. Now you just have the face of standing there and just read the script that was presented to you. Of course, that's the feeling I get, but I can be totally off. For the jury, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but this seems again so biased, so overly exaggerated. I mean, the jury, if they're experienced people, probably I don't know what they will consider of this. She also mentioned something that I don't recall happening, because she said that the punch she gave Johnny was before Travis, before Travis stood up, walked up the stairs, and Travis testified that actually he was in between the two, and the sister was never there, like was somewhere in the back, and she punched him, and then Travis, the bodyguard, took him away. See, Amber now, she's a little bit happy that she has like the shield on the stand that is gonna act her script. She's looking at the camera too. You're looking at guys. Don't look at me, Amber. Huh? You're not my type. Really, not my type. Don't look at me. But anyway, like I said, the jury saw, I don't know how they will see this, it seems as incredibly hyper biased. So I'm looking also at the cross-examination to bring a little bit of balance to this,
So this is, can we publish, Your Honor?
Yes, it's in evidence, yes.
Thank you. So, Whitney, this is dated March 23rd, 2015, 6:57. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's to Kevin. Who's Kevin?
Kevin Murphy, he was Johnny's estate manager.
Okay. And then, Michelle, if you can scroll up. So let's stop
you,
at the
Gina.
first one. Can you please describe to the jury what this is?
That is one of Amber's clothing racks on the stairs that lead up to the bedroom area.
And you took this picture?
I did.
Okay. Michelle, can you scroll up again?
Oh man, I would love some
And please describe
metadata.
for the jury what's depicted in this photo.
These are more of Amber's racks. These were her shoes and purses and such. Those were all like taken off the walls. And you can see here all of her clothes are on the floor. Her
Oh,
shoes.
that's the disaster of
Okay, thank you.
some clothing on the floor. Wow, that was definitely
And
an explosion
the
happened
next
in
one,
the
could
room.
you please describe what the next picture depicts?
More of the same. Clothing racks that have been kind of toppled over or moved. They were.
I wonder
like,
if Johnny
neat.
was also upset
It
maybe
looked
in
like
this
a- yeah,
incident.
it's a closet
Maybe
room.
if he had
But these
discovered
ones were
that
just
somebody
toppled
was
over
coming
and
up.
moved. This
to
is
his
the room that
house.
adjoined
You know what I mean?
my room. So
Okay.
Can you imagine? I would be
Next
pissed
one.
too if you
And
discovered
could you
that
describe to the
James
jury, please,
Franco
what this is?
or the other guy was coming
that's
up already.
another clothing rack
frequently.
that has been taken down and taken apart, kind of.
Okay. And we'll go to the next one. And please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
Just more clothing racks that have been taken down, moved.
Yeah, I've seen these pictures. I mean,
Depicted here.
it's a little bit hilarious actually.
Same thing, just more clothing racks that were toppled over.
All right. And if we go to the next one.
And this is the kitchen area. This is the taken from the mezzanine level that I was describing earlier.
And
but
what
that
is
looks like
the
broken
damage?
glass
Where's the damage?
or something, blue ceramic, broken.
Okay. And
Wow.
if we go up, and the top one there looks like part of what was earlier. Let's go to the bottom one. I think we have a bigger picture there.
God.
Does that help with
Yes.
what's
Looks
depicted
like
there?
a cup.
I still can't tell what it was, maybe a plate of some sort, but there's also a rolled cigarette, a couple bottles of water. But yeah, whatever that blue thing is, it was
Not
broken.
staged at all.
That's what's all over
All
the-
of
the
a sudden,
kitchen there,
two
and
bottles of
also next to
water
the
and a
stove.
cigarette will be placed just in the corner there randomly.
Thank you.
Oh, that's
After the
fantastic.
staircase incident.
Oh my God, they should not have
What, if
showed me this
anything, did
bottle
Mr.
part.
Depp ask you
Oh my
to
God.
sign?
Oh my God.
There was an
Come on.
NDA on my kitchen table.
Can you tell the jury what an NDA is?
It's a non-disclosure agreement. It's basically, my understanding is it's a contract to keep things private, to keep your mouth shut, essentially.
All right. And you were given one or asked to sign one?
I was asked to sign one. I don't believe I signed it. I left sometime after.
So you moved out after that?
It was after this point that Johnny had accused me of selling stories to the media, which were absolutely untrue, but I moved out after that point.
Okay. Now, did there come a time that Amber asked you to move back in?
Yes, February 2016, she texted me asking me to come back.
Okay. And
This is hilarious.
so you were living with her from sometime in February 2016 forward?
I think on and off. I think I had my own apartment by then, but I spent a lot more time at the Eastern after that.
Okay. I'm going to take you to April 21, 2016, Amber's 30th birthday party. Were you present for that?
I was.
Can you please describe to the jury what you observed that night?
It was her 30th birthday, so we wanted to make it, really special. We had made this beautiful dinner, and it was great. All of her close friends were there, and everyone was having a really good time. Everyone was having fun. Johnny showed up very, very late, and he was drunk when he showed up. Amber was obviously upset about it, but There came a time in the party where we all went around the table and said our favorite thing about Amber, just funny memories or whatever. When it came to Johnny's turn, he told this story about how they first met when they met for the rum diary. So, he had this story about how she came in to his office and she sat on the couch and her perfect ass left a perfect imprint on the couch, and he wouldn't let anyone sit there after she left that day.
And that's supposed to be
one of those stories
something
that
bad?
Everyone was kind of embarrassed. We had all gone around the table saying really nice things about her, and gets to him and he's talking about her ass. We were all kind of embarrassed.
And when did you leave the party that night?
I left pretty shortly after that.
Okay.
And I went home.
What, if any, conversation did you have with Mr. Depp about his plans to attend Coachella the next day?
He was planning on coming to Coachella with us. At some point we were talking about what was happening the next day, and so that night he told us he was going to come to Coachella with us the next day.
Okay. And did he ultimately come to Coachella with you the next day?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to jump forward to talk about some statements that were made, the counterclaim. What, if any, observations did you make about how the statements, we're talking about the three statements that we're quoting Adam Waldman,
Tricia, I agree with you.
Impacted Amber? And I'm asking for your observations. Just tell the jury what your observations were of how these statements impacted Amber.
Objection, Your Honor. Compound, lack of foundation, speculation.
Overruled, that's fine.
Thank you.
Amber has worked so hard to overcome everything that she went through in the duration of their relationship. She has really, really tried her best to move past it. And anybody that knows Amber at all knows that some of the most important things to her are honesty, integrity. Her reputation is all she has. She doesn't have piles of money and private islands or...
Objection, Your Honor. It's non-responsive.
I'll sustain the objection.
Oh my God.
Please
she
continue with what
she was devastated by these. To say that they're not true,
Oh my God.
it devastated her. And also, we had just buried our mother. So Amber, she started having panic attacks randomly. She was not sleeping.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
These are your observations. Thank you. Please continue.
These statements devastated her. They devastated her because they weren't true.
Oh, the sister is really doing her best.
They were just
At least now you know what it means to be biased.
And you talked about panic attacks. What else did you observe that she would do as a result of these? Physical.
She would just periodically just break into tears. She I don't know how else to describe it. She was so unwell. She stopped sleeping again. She was super anxious. She couldn't relax. She couldn't sit still. It was very similar to the Amber that I had seen back in 2016 as she was trying to get out of this relationship. It launched her back into this space where she was just so physically unwell, and she cried a lot.
Guys, I make jokes, but I'm listening. I'm kind of valuing. I'm trying to value also her angle. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, obviously there is a gigantic bias, but.
Good afternoon, Ms. Enriquez. We haven't met before. My name's Rebecca Lecoros. I'm one of the lawyers representing Mr. Depp in this case.
All right, cross-examination.
You grew up in Texas with your sister and your parents, right?
Correct.
And you were really close with Ms. Heard growing up?
We were.
And you're still close now, right?
We are.
And you love her?
Of course.
And your childhood, though, had some difficult moments, right?
It wasn't perfect.
Your father hit you and your sister at times, right?
Yes.
And your sister would protect you from that abuse when she could, wouldn't she?
We would protect each other, for sure.
And when you graduated from high school, you moved out to Los Angeles, right?
I did.
And your sister gave you a place to live in LA?
Yes.
And she helped support you?
In part, I also was working myself, and yeah,
And you're grateful to her for being there when you needed her, right?
of course.
And just like she protected and cared for you, you want to protect and care for her, right?
And when I can, of course, but yeah.
You testified to having a great relationship with Mr. Depp when you first started dating your sister, right?
Correct.
And you thought of him as a brother?
Yes.
He called you sis?
Yes.
And you had affectionate nicknames for him
Wow.
too, didn't you?
A number of them, yes.
Wow, that was telling, man.
And you testified that for a time you lived in the ECB penthouses with Mr.
When I don't know what happened here, but when she said he called you sis, she looked at him immediately. I think something happened here. It's not me, guys. I think it just froze from them. But there was it's them. It's not us. So I don't know. Let me refresh. But it's them. I think it broke or something. Yeah. Wow. That was telling when she said like he called you sis. She just with face down and then looked at Johnny straight up looked at him. To me that gave me the sense of that was really true. I don't know, this deposition is super biased, but I'm trying to read in between the lines, Of course, you're always afraid a little bit, because obviously we have a leaning towards Johnny, so obviously you're afraid that actually a real evidence pops up that kind of shifts you towards, their camp, and all of a sudden you start to fear for that because you're like, oh wow, could it be really that Johnny had a dark part and really came out and so on and so forth, So, but that's what, of course, this is for, like also the testimony of a sister. That's what it's for. Also, it's trying to sway the jury towards the other camp.
Metaphorically.
Here we go. Finally,
But yes, I have been in arguments with my sister.
And you have wanted to run away for days, right?
Sure.
And not have her there fighting with you.
Sure.
yeah, it will be interesting now.
You talked a little bit about the incident in March 2013, right?
Which one?
That was the one before you went to the Keith Richards
Yes.
documentary set? And you were present with Mr. Depp at Orange that day?
I was.
Didn't you do cocaine with Mr. Depp that afternoon?
Yes.
And you said Mr. Depp's already intoxicated?
He was by the time I got there.
And he was fighting with your sister?
He wasn't doing much of anything. He was sat at the table. He was telling me about the fight that they had.
So
he
he'd
was
been,
kind of
he'd
ignoring.
been fighting with your sister that day when you arrived?
That was my understanding.
And you said she had a puffy face?
Yes.
And despite all of that, you decided it was a good idea to do cocaine with Mr. Depp at that juncture?
I hadn't yet connected the dots. I hadn't yet understood what that meant or what that would do.
of course,
That was a yes? Yes, you took cocaine with Mr. Depp
I
after all
did.
that?
Yes, I already said that.
Come on, lawyer, be good. Don't worry.
You testified that you had suspicions that Mr. Depp was allegedly hitting your sister by some point in 2013, right?
Suspicions.
And notwithstanding that, in June 2013, you were
Put the
actually
lights on,
joking
wait.
with Mr. Depp about hitting your sister, right?
Regrettably, over a text message, yes.
That you were encouraging him to hit her,
I was not literally encouraging him to hit her.
but you were joking about it.
Regrettably, yes. Again, I did not have an understanding fully of what that was. I never would have said that now, knowing what I know.
But that was alleged. That was around the time that you allegedly became aware that he was.
I don't
there were
know.
injuries on your sister that caused you to have suspicions.
I don't know if it was around the same time.
turning to the staircase incident in March 2015, you testified that Mr. Depp allegedly hit you during that incident, right?
Yes.
But you aren't sure if that contact was even meant for you, right?
I honestly don't. I don't know what he was aiming for. My back was to him.
And you weren't injured during that incident, right?
No, I wasn't.
And you didn't seek medical attention?
No,
And you said Debbie Lloyd was there during all of that, correct?
she was.
And Mr. Depp's security, Travis McGivern, was there too?
Yes, he was.
And you saw your sister hit Mr. Depp on the stairs that day, right?
After he struck me, yes.
You said she landed one, right? And then the next day, you found some damage in the adjoining penthouse.
Correct.
And we saw some pictures of what you saw that day, right?
Yes.
You thought it was important to document that damage, right?
Not to document. It was Kevin's
yes.
job
Very
to kind of clean up the houses, take care of the houses. I took pictures just so he could be aware of what he would need to bring. I didn't know if he had tools here or whatever. I was just preparing him for what he was going to have to fix.
But you didn't take any pictures of your sister that day, right?
No, I didn't.
How convenient.
Now, after March 2015, you continued to have
man.
a close relationship with Mr. Depp, right?
How convenient.
Yes,
And you still loved him,
of course.
and you were there for him if he needed you, right?
Of course.
She's looking at him.
And in fact, just a couple of weeks after that staircase incident, you were still acting as the marriage counselor, weren't you?
At some point, sure.
And that fall, after the staircase incident, October 2015, you claim you had seen Mr. Depp hitting your sister. And then in October 2015, you were actually still trying to reconcile him and your sister when they were fighting, right?
Yes, I was asked to support. I was just trying to help what I thought they both wanted. I was just trying to support, or trying my best to support them the way that I thought I could.
You still loved Mr. Depp at that point, right?
I did.
And you didn't think that he and your sister were past the point of no return, right?
What I thought was irrelevant at that point. I really,
Hey, ciao, Stan.
those two were in love and they were working very hard. They wanted to be together, it seemed like, so I just helped as best as I could. I don't know how else to describe it.
Your sister still wanted to be with Mr. Depp, right?
And she loved him.
And you didn't think they were past the point of no return?
I don't know what you mean by that exactly.
Okay. Let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 1283. It's not yet in evidence. We'll just show that to the witness.
This lawyer, it's pragmatic. I like it as well. Let's hope she keeps it
I've got
cool.
this, if I might approach, Your Honor, I have this in redacted and unredacted.
Okay, you want to come forward?
So when her counsel directs her, you see there is a lot of it's like a little bit like building up the emotional chapter of an article or a novel. You know, when the counsel, it's basically creating the pity party so that the jury can be swayed through the drama and so on and so forth. And then the cross-examination kicks in, and if there are facts, then, you know, brings that emotional journey that you had before where you start to get confused, kind of, you know, puts it a little bit more into perspective. Because it's always about, you know, the incongruencies of things. You know, like you take pictures of clothes and stands or whatever on the floor, but you allege that there was this very strong altercation where your sister was pulled by the hair and so on and so forth. Amber Heard claimed there was head-butted by Johnny and so on and so forth. And you don't take pictures of your sister. So to me, that's goes always back to the same point. I want to listen. I'm open. I'm also open to finally get an evidence where they showed Johnny as the monster. Maybe he was a monster for 1 year. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, I'm not married to Johnny. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I would be absolutely disappointed, but you know, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready to look at both sides. But every time we go back to it, then there are those incongruences which they make me go like, oh, come on. You know, you freaking like tried to convince me for 10-15 minutes about your sister being a freaking angelic, and then you didn't take any freaking picture when she was punched in the face. But the clothes were important. Oh, come on, you know.
And
Give us a break.
Ms. Enriquez, if I could just direct your attention, we can go to the third page, please.
Do I have control of this or no?
No, you do not. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
we'll put it up for you. And
Do I have control of that?
we can go back to the first page if you'd like, or we can take a look
little
at the
sleep.
unredacted version if we need to. But do you recognize these as text messages that you sent to Mr. Depp on October 2nd, 2015?
Yeah, vaguely. I mean, they're clearly my text messages, but yeah, I recognize them, I think.
Okay. And if we can go to the third page, please, Tom. And you'll see the second blue box from the bottom there. You texted Mr. Depp and you said, I love both of you so much and would fucking stay out of it if I thought this shit were past the point of no return. But that's not where you guys are right now. Did I read that right?
Oh, but that's not where you guys are at. Yes.
So you didn't think they were past the point of no return in October 2015, right?
Yeah, at that point, clearly I didn't.
You can take that down.
Oh.
You wanted Ms. Heard to stay with Mr. Depp even after you allegedly saw him hit her, right?
That's really oversimplifying something that's far from simple. Again, Amber was very
That was a
much in
good
love.
response,
So was
actually.
Johnny. She's telling me that she wants something. Whether or not I agreed to it or not, whether or not I was okay with what was happening, it wasn't my place. If my sister said that she still wanted to be with Johnny, and if I could help with that in any way, I was going to support her. I was going to be there for her to support that.
Yeah, you didn't want to contradict your sister, right?
Pardon?
You didn't want to contradict your sister.
I don't know if I'd characterize it that way. I was trying to support my sister the best that I could or knew how or thought she wanted.
And you say you wanted to protect her, though, right?
At that point, I don't know if I would categorize it as that. I was just trying to support my sister.
You went to Coachella with your sister for her 30th birthday in 2016, right?
Yes.
And you testified that you were aware, I believe, that she and Mr. Depp had fought the night before?
You could turn your microphone on, Ms. Bretterhoff.
Never mind, I withdraw that objection.
Okay, withdrawn. All right. You can answer the question, ma'am.
Yes, I was aware that they had argued the night before.
You didn't see any bruises on Ms. Heard at Coachella that year, though, right?
Yeah, she was wearing a lot of makeup.
You didn't see any marks on her?
Not that I can recall.
Didn't notice any swelling, right?
To the best of my recollection, I don't.
And your sister didn't have a working phone on her that day, did she?
No, she didn't.
But you did?
Yes, it did.
And you wanted Mr. Depp to know that Ms. Heard's phone wasn't working, right?
I believe I reached out to him for her, yeah.
And you were encouraging him to reach out to her through you if he was trying to reach her, right?
I believe so at one point, yes.
You didn't want him to think that he was ignoring her.
I'm sorry?
You didn't want him to think that he was ignoring her, right?
Sure.
And you wanted them to reconcile, didn't you?
Amber really wanted him there. Despite the fact that they had had a fight the night before, it was very complicated. It was very nuanced. You know, they fought, they got back together. They fought, they loved each other. They hated each other, they loved each other. I just remember her wanting Johnny to come to Coachella at some point. I wasn't trying to
lady.
reconcile them. I was just trying to.
Oh, lady, you're giving
facilitate.
your sister in actually like this.
And you did that even though
You're giving your
you were
sister
concerned
in
about
like
marks
this.
that you say you'd seen on her since at least 2013 and during the course of their relationship, right?
again, that's really oversimplifying something. We all saw this, we all thought that we would see Johnny on the other end of this. Because again, when he was sober, things were wonderful. When he wasn't sober, they were terrible, sure, but we all thought that he was just going to get better. We all wanted to just see the other side of that. So yes, sure, if you look at it simply, but it's not simple at all. I don't know how else to answer it.
And this was after you allegedly saw him hit her, right?
Yes.
And you knew that they had just had another fight, right?
Yes.
You know who Jennifer Howell is, right, Ms. Enriquez?
I do.
She's the founder of the Art of Elysium nonprofit.
She is.
And you worked there for a time, didn't you?
I did.
Around May 2015, you actually moved in with Ms. Howell, right?
May 2015?
15?
Yes.
And you moved out of the penthouses because at that point you and your sister were fighting, right?
It was around the time that, he had accused me of leaking stories, and that was the impetus of me leaving.
And you testified earlier, I think, that he had asked you to sign an NDA, right?
At some point.
And that was around the same time that he was concerned you were leaking stories about their wedding to the media?
I believe so.
You know,
You and Ms. Howell were close?
We were.
Close enough that you lived with her for around a year?
I don't recall if it was that long.
And you confided in Ms. Howell, right?
About some things, yes. She was my friend.
You called her your chosen sister? Ms. Enriquez, you claim to have seen signs of injuries on your sister during the course of her relationship with Mr. Depp,
there
right?
is something
Yes.
honest in the
But you never witnessed
in the
any
eyes
incidents that
of Whitney.
resulted in visible
something
injuries to your sister,
that I
right?
see. You know, like
Other than the staircase incident? I witnessed that incident. What are you asking me exactly?
You never witnessed any incidents that resulted in signs of injury that you were concerned about over the course of their relationship?
Other than the staircase incident, I did witness that.
No, at no other time when you...
No, that was the only time that I saw him.
And you didn't see what caused... any
I
of the
explain
injuries
you
that
later.
you've
I
seen
explain
during
you
the course of
later.
their
I don't mean that
relationship,
she's
right?
telling
Other
all
than
the
staircase
truth.
incident.
I'll explain later.
Yeah, staircase incident is the only one that I saw.
But you have seen your sister land a blow on Mr. Depp, right?
That was the time, yes, after he hit me.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, redirect?
I have no redirect.
All right, is this witness subject to recall?
No, she may be excused.
Is subject to recall? No? Okay, all right, ma'am, you are free to go, or you can stay in the courtroom. It's up to you, okay? Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Our next
No,
witness,
wha-
Your Honor, is another deposition designation.
Okay.
And it's going to be,
How long is it?
this particular one is about 45 minutes.
Okay. All right, why don't we go ahead and, it's early, but why don't we go ahead and take our afternoon recess, though? That way we can get everything ready for you. So we'll just take our 15-minute break now, and then we'll come back and have that deposition, okay? So we'll see you in 15 minutes. Don't do any outside research, and don't talk to anybody.
All right. Okay, I tell you. Okay, we have a little bit of time now, so we can talk a little bit here. So, first thing first. It's her sister. So, obviously, if there's still any shred of relationship, then you know that she's gonna cover for her. It's like the same thing if, let's say, the daughter of Johnny Depp was on the stand, like you will feel the same way. It's like, okay, it's the daughter, like most likely, to the extent of what it's possible, she's gonna try to help the father, So when there is family involved, you have to consider that, right? You notice that most of the time, the few people that deposed for her, apart from the ex-husband of Raquel, Rocky, they were like more biased, and ex-husband of Rocky actually was a little bit more believable. He was also quick to answer. He didn't seem to hesitate much. So actually was also interesting. I think it was more believable. There are a few points in his deposition that made me think which I don't know if they're the truth. Like, I don't know if it was the first couple of cops or the second couple of cops that came by, and he said that one of the cops talked to him and said, listen, there is enough basically evidence, she has red in the face, that we can go and just pick him up, referring to Johnny. So I don't know if that really happened, because I don't remember, I don't think I've watched the deposition of the two cops. I remember just watching a little bit the deposition of the female cop, and I don't remember the other two. I don't know if they said that, so I have no idea what is true, what is not. Like I said, either camp, they try to sway you towards them, that this is, I suppose it's normal for this type of thing. And obviously for us, that we are more biased toward Johnny because, so far we don't seem to have any evidence to prove the contrary. You don't want to be disappointed. But like I said, I'm also prepared because I want the truth. You know what I mean? I just want the truth. I want to get over this, like, okay, the truth. He did this, he did this. He didn't do this, he didn't do this. Fine, let's move on. Of course, it's more, like, complicated than that, but so far there's nothing. There's just a lot of bias. And what I wanted to say about Whitney having some, I could see something in her eyes that she was honest. I meant that what I saw is that she seemed like to recall event that really happened, but of course she kind of had to build on top of it. You know what I mean? Like, I saw those movements where she would instinctively look towards Johnny, when she was talking about him. And that's a sign of, like, when you had a connection with somebody, that you look at them, you somehow subconsciously you seek for their gaze. And I was curious because I noticed in the beginning that Johnny was looking at her a lot, like searching for her eyes, trying to lock on with her, because of course you communicate also without speaking with the eyes. I don't think he was doing for intimidating her, even though he looked angry, but by continuing observing, I noticed Johnny that he looked at her more in the way of, like of disappointment, like, I was right about you, like I let you in, I've let you in, I've opened up to you, even in my most like private things of doing stuff together. Usually you don't do stuff for everybody, especially at that level. You already heard that he would just be with Marilyn Manson or somebody else. So he's also a private guy. The other guy deposed that usually when he was consuming, he would do it also privately. So it's fair to say that probably he opened up to the sister because maybe she seemed sincere. And he had the look of somebody that was looking at a traitor, At least that's what it came across to me. But I can be totally off. I don't take my word for it. But I had that sense, and what I meant, I saw honesty in Whitney's eyes, is that despite the fact that she was embellishing some stuff, I saw guilt in her eyes. I saw guilt. I saw a little bit of guilt. So I wonder if the guilt that I've seen perhaps was either the feeling that she was up there trying to protect the sister and she was untruthful, or that she also felt guilty that the disappointment that I saw in JD's face was actually truthful, that she did betray him, So I had that sense. So I don't know how you saw it, but I try to see things more from a, I don't know, like human perspective, like I don't have any qualification. I just pick up on stuff, like I don't want to say it's one of my qualities, but I always picked up on people behavior and and looks and energy and mannerism and through what they say, how they move and how they look and through their eyes. So I had this impression, but yeah, I could be wrong. Yeah. She definitely was exhibiting some honest feelings. The sister. I mean, we said that yesterday, and I don't know if you need a specialist for that, but one thing that for me was enough abundant was that literally Amber switched character in between the counsel and the cross-examination. It's almost like we were watching, honestly, two different people. Like, it was too obvious. It was too obvious for me. Like just the behavior, the mannerism, everything. I'm like, whoa. And we had also the chance to see a back-to-back. So, you see first the overexpressive Amber. Then you see the kind of more cold, calculated, didn't cry once in cross-examination Amber. And then back to redirect, and the crying almost resumed like instantly, with the overexpression and so on and so forth. I was like, oh wow, this is literally couldn't be more clear than this. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was quite fascinating. Guys, sorry, I'm switching on the other phone because the other phone went off, so I don't see the chat any longer. Here we go. Yeah, that's still me. Here we go. We're still 4,000 in the chat. Nice to see you guys. Best man ever. You know what? Actually, I was just about to say that, and there was a point that I wanted to make. I noticed when the lawyer, JD lawyer, brought up their childhood, and when they brought up that she was beat up by the father, I saw something in her eyes that I almost wanted to say it, and I couldn't because I didn't want to speak on that. But when I saw that, I immediately thought, wow. She's an abused. Like in that way, in that instance, I could see emotions swelling up. I swear to the universe, I could feel that all of a sudden she tensed up. I could feel that had an effect on her. Like really rooted, deeply damaged memory. That those are the most damaging also when they come from your family. I saw the truth that I saw something that really affected her. I was like, oh wow. Like this is how somebody that is traumatized behaved. And then she briefly snapped out of it because, I picked up on that. I picked up on that as well. I was like, oh, wow. I saw something real right there. Like, I didn't expect that. I saw something real. They definitely have had this experience as children. That's probably also what it contributed probably to a messed up personality or degrading a personality in Amber or something, like whatever that's called, I see some weird comments in the chat also. I see some kind of weird comments in the chat also. Saudades, ciao Maria. Yeah, I also agree with some of you said, like, you know, maybe that's why they connected JD and Whitney, because probably that they shared a similar experience, you know, being traumatized by a parent. Yeah, like I said, I saw guilt in the face of Whitney, so that was also pretty quick. I actually hoped that they would go over a little bit more things in the cross-examination, but yeah, could have been more interesting. But I guess also as the counsel, like as their lawyers, you know, they already asked all the things that they wanted to ask to direct, basically. So, you know, what else can you say? I mean, but I saw some slip up, you know, I think somewhere, like the non-disclosure thing. It's actually something very common, you know. It's not something that JD, it's like a freak or whatever. It's actually incredibly common for celebrities to give non-disclosure forms to their surrounding, because they have to protect themselves. And that makes total sense. You can leak all kinds of information to the media, and you know, like, good or bad that person is, that's how it works. So it's not something strange. Actually, I'm surprised that probably JD refused, stopped allowing them in, because she didn't sign the disclosure form, you know. And if you don't, that means that you also might have other intentions. You know what I mean? You could also see it that way. So in that regard, I don't feel like that was a point of against Johnny Depp, you know, that he asked for disclosure form. I know for a fact that a lot of those private parties, they require those type of things, because there's a lot of influential people they might attend, and you know, they don't want to have like pictures on Instagram or whatever leaked by somebody that was invited or something. So that's how it is. It's just common practice. You know, I was trying to understand a little bit how works this civil case. And of course, you know, you sue somebody for 50 million, you countersue them for 100 million. I mean, at the end of the day, my understanding is that perhaps at the end of all of this, nobody's going to get anything, you know. Then the trial is finished. Nobody's going to face any consequences, you know, maybe a fine. I don't know. The jury, to my understanding, I have to look better into it because I'm not an expert. But to my understanding, this is, you know, just not a criminal case. It's a civil case. And yeah, you know, that's probably why it's also easier to lie, because people, they don't really face any like serious consequences, you know. And the jury might not reward any damage to any party. So that would be, I don't know, like, I also, honest to God, I also seem like, I really don't know. I'm really not an expert, but it will be really strange if the jury will award 50 million damage to Johnny Depp. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off. I'll maybe tomorrow or the day after, when there is no trial, I'll educate myself a little bit. But I don't know why, intuitively, to me, it just doesn't look possible that the guy in the US, I don't know, I'm just being biased, I don't know, but it seems totally impossible to me that Johnny Depp will be awarded by the jury the 50 million in damage. Like, I just don't think it's gonna happen, you know. Even if he wins the case, even if he wins, like, you know, that if it's possible that its name is cleared because they see that there was a defamation or something, and they believe him, there might be, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, still a possibility that he wins, but he doesn't get any damage, you know? Thank you, Ingrid. Yes, guys, please hit the like. Hit the like. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. After the trial, I try to cover the freshest meme about the day, so don't forget to check that out as well. And today I hope I go to sleep because I slept 4 hours.
All right, thank you. Be seated. All right, your next witness.
Our next witness, Your Honor, is Elizabeth Mars.
Mars, M-A-R-S?
M-A-R-Z.
M-A-R-Z. Thank you.
Who is she?
All right.
Elizabeth Mars.
Please state your full name for the record.
She's also pretty.
Elizabeth Ray Mars. Between the time that you lived in New York, so let's say 2007, 2008 through 2015, 16, how many times would you estimate that you saw Ms. Heard?
I don't remember.
More than 4 times?
No.
In 2015 and 16, do you recall how close you and Ms. Pennington were as friends?
Yeah, we were pretty close.
All right, that's her
Pretty
camp.
close.
All right.
In your previous testimony, I'll represent to you, Ms. Mars, that you testified that at least in July of 2016, you would communicate with Ms. Pennington weekly.
I don't remember. Maybe at that time, perhaps we were communicating. Like I said, there were moments where we were communicating weekly or daily.
Would you agree with me that you would remember something as significant as one of your girlfriends telling you, somebody you've known since Texas when you were young girls?
Oh man, I
you would
love
remember
Camille.
Ms. Heard told you that her husband or fiance or boyfriend was beating her. Do you remember that, correct? And your testimony is that you only lived at the Eastern Columbia building in February of 2016 for 2 weeks?
It was around 2 weeks. I don't know the specific amount of time, but it was definitely a little over 2 weeks, less than a month. And yes.
Man, she's
And when
snobby.
you stayed at the Eastern Columbia building, did you
She's
stay
snobby.
in
I
one
can
of the
already tell
penthouses?
you right now. She's snobby.
Yes.
Okay. And did you understand that that penthouse was owned by Mr. Depp at the time?
I assumed it was, yes.
And for what purpose did you go to the Eastern Columbia building on May 21st, 2016?
To assist Raquel in getting ready for a bead show that she was going to be doing the following day.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp be violent towards anyone?
I experienced him that night as like I was scared of him. So that's all I can say from the moment that the one interaction I had with him that
I
night.
had
It
a
was
feeling. I had a
frightening to me.
feeling of
his behavior was frightening to me.
is
No, she wouldn't wear makeup?
I mean, I don't think of her as someone who wears a lot of makeup. No.
Yeah, you've known her a long time.
Right.
She's never been somebody that wears a lot of makeup, correct?
scared
Exactly.
me.
Unless she's
Oh
going
my
to something
God.
that she needs to put makeup on for.
Right. But other than that, she's usually bare-faced and beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's your recollection, your best recollection, that Miss Pennington was with you in Penthouse 5 and never left with Miss Heard before Mr. Depp arrived. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you hear some type of commotion. You don't know where it's coming from, correct?
It sounds like, yeah, it sounds like it's coming from, we hear commotion and then it feels like it's getting closer and closer and closer.
Did it sound like voices, or
This is
did
a
it sound
friend of
like
Amber and
destruction?
Rocky.
It sounded like voices and destruction.
Raquel, Rocky, I don't
But the
know.
door was abruptly opened, correct?
Abruptly open.
Okay, so you hear the commotion. It feels like it's getting closer and closer. What happened next?
Then, soon after the door slammed open and Johnny came like bursting through the door.
Who opened the door?
Johnny.
Okay. Was Johnny alone?
There was the two men behind him.
Okay.
Following him.
So Johnny opens the door. He's got his two, what we'll assume are his bodyguards, with him. What happens next?
So it all happened very fast. The door kind of
It's funny
burst
because
open.
she's
and he
intimidating
came in
Camille
very just,
with her look.
From my perspective,
Probably she likes Camille.
really under the influence of something, drugs or alcohol, because he was very sloppily, he looked wasted. He was holding a very large bottle of wine, looked like some sort of like a Magnum bottle of wine, which was kind of spilling all over the place. And as he opened the door, he just, what I remember what he mumbled was, "Get your
Thank you,
bitch
Karen.
out of here." And I just remember it all happened very fast, like the door slamming, him saying, "Get your bitch out of here," the wine, that whole, his whole being really frightened me. It almost felt like he was coming towards me from my perspective. Whether he was coming towards me or not, it scared me. And I just ran out past him.
You said Mr. Depp appeared to be either drunk or high. Is that correct?
He seemed to be intoxicated.
Okay. Is that different than drunk?
No, I guess. Yeah, he definitely seemed like he was under the influence of something.
And on May 21st, 2016, how was Mr. Depp's demeanor different?
It was much more sloppy and all over the place and frightening and combative. Felt very angry. He felt angry. And
And when you say combative, what was combative specifically about his demeanor?
just the way he burst through the room, just very forcefully, and rushed in very quickly to the point that it made me want to get past him and run out very quickly. Like it wasn't an invite. It was very. Yeah, it was intense.
Okay. So Mr. Depp
She licked her
comes through
lips.
the door.
Maybe she liked the display of
Penthouse 5.
masculinity for once in her
and
life.
you hear him
I'm
say
joking.
something to the effect of, "Get your bitch out of here," correct? Mm-hmm. And then you ran out immediately thereafter?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Depp spill any wine in Penthouse 5 before you ran out?
Yes.
How much wine did you see him spill?
I don't remember.
A lot? The entire bottle?
Not the entire bottle. What I remember was it was flailing, and there was definitely wine that was coming out.
Would you say that being sloppy is different than being combative?
Exactly what I was thinking, Sandra.
Yeah, I would say sloppy and combative are two different things.
And it's your testimony that Mr. Depp was on May 21st, 2016, both combative and sloppy, correct?
Yeah, I would describe it that there was a little bit of both. Yes, but combative and sloppy.
Was he more sloppy than he was combative?
It felt more combative than sloppy.
The
And
vocal
just to
fry
clarify,
like
the only
kills
thing that
me.
was combative was the words he was speaking?
No, it was completely the way he entered into the room, rushed in, his energy, the way it felt like he was coming after me, like he almost felt like, from where I was standing, it felt like he was charging towards me. And I
She's
was
still
scared,
dreaming of
and it
Johnny
was,
Depp, this woman.
It felt,
She's still dreaming of him right now.
it felt, combative. It felt. I'm trying to look for
Oh
another
my God!
word
It
that
sounds
can
like
describe
I'm
what I
listening to a
felt,
page
but
of
it
a
was,
harmony novel.
it was scary. My heart was beating really fast, very quickly, and I was freaked out.
Okay, so after you exchanged some text messages with Miss Pennington, you came out of hiding
She's
spot,
biting her lips.
and then went to Ms. Pennington and Mr. Drew's penthouse. Is that correct?
Correct.
So who was in penthouse 1 when you got out of the hiding spot and came to penthouse 1?
I mean, it was Josh, Raquel, Amber, and I were the people that were at some point in there during that time.
Okay. Do you remember the first time you saw Ms. Heard after this incident?
I remember seeing her after that incident, and it was in that apartment.
In penthouse 1.
Correct.
So the first time you saw Ms. Heard after this incident on May 21st, 2016 was in penthouse 1. What do you recall seeing, the first thing you saw when you saw Ms. Heard?
I just remember she looked really upset and disheveled, and her hair was a mess, and she had a swollen face. Red. She had a red, swollen face.
Okay. Had you ever
Sweetie,
seen Ms.
you
Heard cry
blinked.
before May 21st,
I don't know why I
2016?
said sweetie. I'm already also fantasizing, sorry. But she blinked so many times
don't
when she
think
said
so.
swollen. Then I'm like,
Not that I can remember.
what movie did you recollect that image from?
What side of her face was swollen?
I think it was her right side of her face.
Do you have an independent recollection
Oh
that
my
it was the
God.
right side of her face that was swollen?
I'm taking myself back there and trying to remember like where I was standing versus, you know what I mean? I think it was, I think looking at her, it was on my left and her right side.
Okay. So let's talk about her hair seemed disheveled. Is that what you said? Her hair was disheveled? Mm-hmm. Was she crying?
Yeah, there was definitely tears.
Was she animated?
Yeah, she was visibly really upset.
Okay. So visibly very upset means what? She was crying? Mm-hmm. Okay. And what else?
Tears, sadness, felt like confusion, felt like those were the main things. that
Would you
happened.
describe? What did Mr. Drew say, if anything?
I don't remember him saying what he said. I think everybody was just shaken up.
So soon after you went into Penthouse 1, you remember some police officers coming to Penthouse 1.
I remember there was police officers in the hallway.
Was Miss Heard icing her face?
I have to make
After
this
the
up.
incident,
Wait a
but
second. I
before
have
the
to make
police
this up. I don't remember what I was told. Searching for the script
I
that
think
she
so.
lost.
Who gave her the ice?
I don't remember.
Of course, you don't remember. Why would you? Looking down again, looking down again, looking down again. You lied. We know.
So you were in Penthouse 1 when the police came. How do you know that they came? What did you hear? What did you see?
Because they said the police are here. So I
Who
remember.
said that?
I don't remember. Again, this is a very long time ago, so the specific details are going to be really hard for me to
I'm
remember.
pretty sure
I
that
just
she looked
know,
down.
knowing
Like,
that police were there.
I had the feeling that when you look down like
And
that,
in
it's
February,
like a sort of
when
like
you lived at the penthouse for a few weeks,
like you're trying to hide, you know?
you
Like-
didn't hear
and guilt
or
also.
see any abuse by Mr. Depp towards Miss Heard, correct?
Correct.
And did you go to Amber and Johnny's penthouse thereafter, or where did you go next?
So I just remember at some point ending up, yes, at some point we were in their penthouse afterwards, in Johnny and Amber's. At some point we went over there.
And did you go over there, you think, after the police came?
It was after the first two police officers came.
Okay. Do you remember glass on the floor?
At this point in time, I don't remember what I saw. I don't remember if it was cleaned up by the time I got there or if there was glass on the floor when I walked in.
Do you recall seeing wine spilled?
None of them
I
recalls.
recall seeing wine spilled in the hallway, like a lot of wine spilled in the hallway.
When do you recall seeing the wine spilled in the hallway?
Because they showed you the picture. That's why.
At some point in the night, maybe after, before. I recall.
They talked
I mean, I don't
of,
remember specifically, but I
distraction
remember
in the
seeing wine spilled in the
apartments.
hallway. I
And
remember that being one of the things that I saw that was part of the
yeah,
destruction of whatever happened.
Okay, so the police come, and you
she
stayed in
also
penthouse.
used the word distraction
one,
herself.
correct.
Okay, it was after the police officers left that you went to penthouse 3, correct, where Amber and Johnny lived?
Correct.
Recall seeing wine spilled in the hallway?
I remember seeing wine spilled in the hallway, yeah.
Okay, and you saw the wine after the police officers came, correct?
I think so.
Did Miss Pennington take any photographs of the scene?
I remember Raquel taking photographs of Amber's face.
Okay. And now going to your description of Miss Heard's face, you said it was the right side of her face. You said it was what, swollen and red? What else?
Correct. Yeah, it was swollen and red.
Was any part of her face more swollen than others?
It was around her eye.
Had bruising developed already?
No, it was red and swollen.
Okay. So you did not see any bruising on Miss Heard's face the evening of May 21st, 2016, correct?
I saw a red, swollen, puffy face.
Okay.
Red, swollen,
And just-
puffy face.
On the right side.
I wish
correct?
we could see that too.
Correct.
Not because we want her to
But
be
it wasn't it
hurt,
your testimony,
but just
Ms.
because there
Mars,
will
that
be
you were inside penthouse
powerful evidence.
1 when the first police officers came to the scene?
Correct, correct.
Okay. And how much time do you estimate they spent in the penthouses?
Oh, biting a lot
I
of leaf.
don't
Look at that.
remember. The second group of officers, there was 2 sets of officers that came. The second set of officers that I actually was in the apartment in PH3, I think
She's
it
a
was.
friend
Did you hear
of
about
Amber and
either
Rocky,
Miss Heard,
Raquel.
Mr. Drew, or Miss Pennington cleaning anything that Mr. Depp allegedly destroyed?
Didn't the
don't
sister
remember,
say
but
that
I'm-
nobody,
I
the
do
circle was
remember
got
that-
smaller and smaller?
I'm pretty sure that Josh was helping to clean up.
The circle
Before
got
I
smaller,
got
and all of a
into- I
sudden
remember
there are
knowing
even
that
new
the place was
friends
cleaned up before
popping
I
out
entered in
all of
there.
a sudden that we didn't
Before
even
you
know.
entered into where?
Into the main apartment.
So you recall Josh Drew cleaning up before you entered penthouse 3. What was he cleaning up exactly?
I just remember by the time that I had gotten into that apartment that someone had cleaned up the glass and the wine that was on the floor.
Recall who told you that penthouse 3 had been cleaned up?
No one specifically told me. It was, what I was expressing is that it was cleaned up before I got there for the most part. I just remember that for the most part. From what I don't remember.
To clarify, Ms. Mars, when you came into penthouse 3, after the police officers, the first set of police officers came and left, you did not see silver candlesticks, candelabra sticks, broken on the floor, baskets of fruit that had been on the kitchen island, fruit everywhere, baskets on the ground, containers holding the spoons and forks, kitchen utensils spilled, a lamp, a little statue thing, broken in penthouse 5. I'm sorry, penthouse 3.
Now that I'm reading this, I'm sort of remembering that there was like some stuff that had like something that had been broken, like a little like the statue thing kind of sounds familiar to me now that I'm reading this, but again, I don't remember when I walked in I don't remember this being on the floor.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing.
Okay. So you don't remember seeing it?
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it. I don't remember. But again, as I'm reading this statue, when I see the statue, there's something that's like, oh, maybe, yeah, I feel like I remember there was some things that were broken, but I don't specifically remember what they were.
You did not witness
I
firsthand
didn't
what?
firsthand
Your
anything.
dreams,
I didn't
they were broken
witness firsthand
on the
Johnny
countertop.
abusing Amber.
But do you recall testifying to that effect? That Johnny charged at you and then you were scared?
He charged towards me, and I was scared. I ran past him.
You didn't run past him because he told everyone in that penthouse to get out of his penthouse?
I ran past him because he was because he ran into the unit and it scared the shit out of me because he was wasted and screaming. So that's why I ran out. If there's a grown-ass man coming at you and saying, get your bitch out of here, and swaying a Magnum-sized bottle of wine, I'm sure, I don't know what anyone do. I can't say what anyone do, but I ran out.
But I'm
And
still
will you
dreaming
just
of
remind
it.
us what side of Miss Heard's face you recall the marks being on May 21st, 2016?
The right side of her face?
Do you feel indebted to Miss Heard in any way?
No.
Have you ever done Miss Heard's makeup?
No.
You testified earlier today that Miss Heard often, in the times you saw her, would not be wearing makeup. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is it possible in some of those times that she was wearing the type of makeup we ladies sometimes use to not appear as though we're wearing makeup?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell whether or not she was wearing basic concealer or foundation?
Correct.
Talk to me about the loud noises. What did you hear?
Yeah, just screaming, yelling, doors slamming, commotion.
Could you tell whether the screaming and the yelling was a male voice or a female voice?
From what I can remember, male.
I love some of the comments, guys. I'm reading
And could
some
you
of
tell
the
where
comments. You're
the
awesome.
screaming and the yelling was coming from?
It felt like it was started farther down the hallway, and then it was coming like closer. So essentially, I mean, I don't know, but it could have been the hallway.
And so after you start hearing the screaming and the yelling and the door slamming and the commotion, you testify that Mr. Drew got up and went to the door?
Yeah.
What did Mr. Drew do?
He was kind of pacing by the door and looking through the peephole.
And what happened next?
And then the door like burst open and Johnny came charging in and screamed, again holding the Magnum-sized bottle of wine, you know, flailing it around, looked intoxicated, kind of stumbling, and screamed, "Get your bitch out of here," as he ran in my direction. And I was scared. It was very frightening and just scary and unexpected. And so I just darted out past him and ran up towards the pool gym area and hid there.
Prior to the night of May 21, 2016, had a man ever charged at you holding a Magnum bottle of wine, screaming profanities?
Her thoughts, I wish.
Objection.
And what was your reaction to this event when it happened on May 21, 2016?
Fear.
Besides the screaming and the door slamming and the wine waving, do you recall anything else about Mr. Depp's actions that evening? During that moment, I guess I should say.
She has an interesting kind of
Just
energy, this
I would
woman.
describe it as erratic behavior.
She seems soft and sensual, but also
Was anyone else
like
with
you're
Mr.
afraid
Depp
to
when
be
he
in the same
charged
room with
into
her at night.
Penthouse 5?
Behind him were two men.
What about Miss Heard?
No,
What about Miss Pennington?
no.
So you testified that after Mr. Depp burst into the apartment and started charging towards you, that you darted out and hid in, I believe it's a communal exercise area, is that correct?
Yeah, I darted out and
I
went up
didn't
the
fully
stairs
see
and
though, huh?
hid somewhere over by
If you
there.
heard the latter part
Why
of
did
the
you
comment.
hide?
Because I was scared.
Sorry, say again. Why did you hide?
Because I was scared.
What were you scared of?
I just didn't know what he would do. I didn't know what he would do.
And the he there is who?
Johnny.
What were you thinking when you were hiding in the communal exercise area?
I don't remember. Just that I just remember being scared and not wanting to leave that area until like I was clear that I wasn't going to be attacked.
And at some point, did you leave the area?
Yes.
And what prompted you to leave the area?
A text with Raquel, just telling her to come to her and Josh's apartment.
It's interesting because
And did you do
she's
as Ms.
making
Pennington
this
said
about
and go to
her,
and
you
Josh's
know, like
apartment?
this is what I noticed. She's
Sitting
making
here
this
today,
about
do you
her.
remember what you were thinking as you were sort of coming out of your hiding spot and walking towards the penthouses again?
I think the whole thing was just bizarre, like really frightening and bizarre to me. I don't specifically remember what I was thinking other than like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened, you know? And is he gone? Maybe I was thinking that. I don't remember specifically.
And when you say, is he gone, who's the he you're referring to there?
Johnny.
When you got to Miss Pennington's and Mr. Drew's penthouse,
Wait, then we're
who
gonna
did you see?
switch
Who
the
was there?
camera on.
I don't remember who was specifically there when I first walked in, but throughout the time being in there in that moment, definitely Amber, Raquel, and Josh. And maybe like just by peeping into the hallway, one of the police officers.
When you saw Miss Heard after you came back down from your hiding spot and you're in Mr. Drew's and Miss Pennington's apartment, how did she look?
She looked frazzled and just completely disheveled. Her hair was all over the place. She had a swollen face, looked like she had been crying, and yeah.
Do you think the swollen face was a result of her having been crying?
I mean, I want to show you one thing.
What do you think it was a
This
result
is a
of?
little cut that
It looked like she'd been like hit in some way. Like it was not from crying. She had markings on her face.
Were the marks that you saw on Miss Heard's face after you came down from your hiding spot present when you had been hanging out with her earlier in the
I mean,
day?
it's a little cut
No.
and already got so red and
You
irritated.
testified earlier today that you witnessed some, I believe it was Mr. Pennington.
There is more
Miss
damage on this
Pennington
finger
or
than
Mr.
I've
Drew
seen on all those
take some
pictures of
photos
Amber Heard
of Miss Heard's
so
face.
far.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
I'd like to mark what will be Mars Exhibit 13. Miss Mars, as the court reporter hands you Exhibit 13, I'll represent to you that these were some photos taken on the night of May 21st, 2016. So if you turn to the second photo in the set, do you recognize the person in this photograph?
Yes.
Who is it?
Amber.
And do you see any marks on her face in this photograph?
Yes.
And do these marks look like the marks that you saw in person on her face on the evening of March 21, 2016?
Yes.
And just to clarify, these marks were not on her face when you saw Miss Heard earlier that same afternoon and were helping Miss Pennington make beads.
Correct.
There are other photos in this set. Why don't we turn back to the first one? Some broken frames on a bed. Do you know what this picture is of?
Yeah, I mean, this is Amber and Johnny's bed, and there's photographs on it.
So I take it that you've seen Amber and Johnny's bedroom before.
Yes.
Do you recall whether you went into Mr. Depp's and Miss Heard's bedroom that night?
No.
No, you don't recall, or no, you didn't?
No, I don't recall.
The next photo on the set is the picture of Miss Heard. Just after that, there's a photo, you're with me, of what appears to be a hallway. Are you with me?
Yes.
Do you recognize what this is an image of?
Yes.
What is it an image of?
It's the hallway between all the penthouse apartments.
So you've been on this hallway
Oh my
many
God, I'm
times.
sick of those
Yes.
pictures.
Do
Honestly.
you see the sort of red staining on the right-hand corner of the page?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing that red staining the night of May 21, 2016?
Yes.
And what was it?
It was wine.
So you saw that staining on the night of May 21, 2016.
Yes.
Do you recall whether it was there when you arrived in the afternoon?
I don't remember seeing it, no.
So when was the first time you remember seeing it?
I think when I came out of my hiding spot and came downstairs back into Raquel and Josh's apartment.
But you didn't see the wine get spilled.
Not this, no.
You saw other wine get spilled?
I saw, yeah, as he was, and when he came in the apartment, when he was flailing the wine.
And the he there is
Johnny.
Then the last photo in this set appears to be of some picture frames hanging on a wall. Do you see that?
Yes, I think it's in Amber and Johnny's apartment, I think. But again, I don't remember if it's in her studio. I don't know.
Do you recall seeing this photo in one of the penthouses before?
Yes.
And when you saw it, was it broken?
No.
And what, if anything, do you remember about Miss Pennington's state?
Also, distraught, upset.
You'd been friends with Miss Pennington for many years at that point, correct?
Correct.
Had you ever seen her similarly distraught?
Not similarly, but seen her sad.
Honestly, honest to God, I feel like
But
I
had
have
you
an
ever seen her
STD.
have the
I don't
same
know why.
reaction that she had that evening?
No.
So you also testify that you saw Mr. Drew in his and Miss Pennington's penthouse. What, if anything, do you remember about Mr. Drew's state?
I just remember him being just a grounding energy, just trying to be supportive to Amber and to Raquel, and just really
Guys, I'm joking.
trying to be like the man in the situation that was gonna like really be grounded amongst like women that were sort of like frightened and sort of a little more frantic. He was very grounded and very like clear, and I remember like feeling safe with him. Like he was, it was like protection.
You testified earlier today that, quote, there are some things that I really remember and some things that are a little shady, end quote. Which bucket do the marks that you saw on Miss Heard's face on the evening of May 21, 2016 fall into? The things that were a little shady, or the things that you really remember?
That I really remember.
Okay, it's finished. Oh my God.
All right. Your next witness?
Witness, Your Honor, is Melanie Iglesias, and that is also by video. And I will say that that begins with Ms. Vasquez questioning first, and then
Okay.
then I come back.
All right. And can you spell it last name just for the court
It's
order?
Inglessis.
Thank you.
Ellen, I'm sorry for you. This time you got the wrong client. Ellen, in the end, she seemed like a good
State your
woman.
name and address for the record.
Oh my
My name is
God.
Melanie Iglesias.
Who is
And Ms.
this?
Iglesias, what
Whoops,
is your
it's me
occupation?
first.
I'm a makeup artist.
And you, in fact, are a professional makeup artist, correct?
Correct.
When did you first meet Amber Heard?
April 2015.
And what was the occasion?
Tribeca Film Festival in New York.
And were you providing makeup services for her on that occasion?
Correct.
Okay. And did you become friends with Amber Heard after that?
I did.
Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibit number 7. Do you recognize
Oh my
what's
God.
depicted in this photograph?
Yes. I recall seeing this on the kitchen of the penthouse. When you enter, they have a bar kitchenette to the left, and that was there.
Well, finally, we
Yes.
found somebody with more accent
But when
than I
you
do.
came to the penthouse after Amber had texted you, whether it was that night or the next day, you saw this in the kitchen. Is that correct? Painted?
Lack of foundation.
And so you do recall being there that evening?
I do recall being there. You know, my only concern with all of this is that was it the day before or during another incident. But it says, if my text said I was there the night before, then I was there the night before.
So they cut the
Ms.
objection
Iglesias,
in
I'm
the
going to ask
audio
you to
here.
look at what has been
So we
marked
don't
as
hear the
deposition
objections.
exhibit number 9. Do you recognize what is depicted in this photo?
Well, it's a bed. It looks like,
Oh my
I mean,
God.
it's a very tight picture of the bed, but it's a bed.
And do you recall seeing this the night of December 15 with the broken part of the bed?
Upstairs, yes.
Okay. And when you say upstairs, what do you mean?
Well, her bed, the bedroom was upstairs.
And the downstairs had the kitchen with the writing. Do you remember where the other property that you saw was? Was that downstairs or upstairs? The property that was damaged. Was that upstairs or downstairs?
Downstairs.
And just so I'm clear, you recall damage to the bed, is that correct?
And asked and answered.
On December 16, 2015, did you return to Amber Heard's penthouse?
Yes.
And why did you come to Amber Heard's penthouse on December 16?
It was the James Corden show. She had an appearance, so I came back to work.
And when you arrived at the penthouse on December 16, please describe for me what you observed about Amber Heard's face and any injuries.
When I came to the penthouse on December 16 to do Amber's makeup, she had injuries. She had two light, like, I don't know how, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a medical expert, I don't know how I would describe them, but it could have looked like somebody had headbutted her lightly, so she had a discoloration here, under both eyes, and on the bridge of the nose.
Remember that you cannot bat somebody lightly.
What I would call a split lip or something on the lip, like a gash or a split lip.
Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask you to look at what has been marked as exhibit number 11.
I want to know if this is the lady that worked at the James Corden show,
as being Amber Heard's head,
or it's her private makeup artist. This is something for me. It's important.
Okay. And could you please describe for me what this photo is showing?
It's showing a chunk of missing hair.
And what, if anything, did you observe on December 16 about Amber Heard missing a chunk of hair?
I remember this because she showed it to us, and I looked at it.
Okay. And can you describe what is depicted right along her scalp there?
I don't know.
Do you recall that there was some bruising along the scalp and some pus, for lack of a better word?
All right, so it's the private makeup artist. Okay, fine.
Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as exhibit number 14. Do you recognize the person in this photo?
Yes.
And who is that?
Oh my God.
This is Amber Heard.
Okay. And were these, you just described what you saw on the 16th with respect to Amber Heard's injuries. Does this accurately depict what you saw on Amber Heard on December 16, 2015?
Yes.
Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as exhibit 16. Again, do you recognize the person in this photo?
Yes.
And who is that?
Amber Heard.
Okay. And does this picture reflect the injuries that you saw on Amber Heard on December 16, 2015?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask you to take a look at one more of those, and that is exhibit 17. And I'm going to ask again, Ms. Iglesias, do you recognize the person in this picture?
They basically disappeared.
Is it Amber Heard?
The darkness on the left side
and
just
does
disappeared.
This reflect what you saw as well on December 16, 2015?
I mean, that's three pictures with very different lights, but yes.
Now, do you also recall there being an injury to Amber Heard's lip?
Correct.
And Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask you to take a look at exhibit number 19, and do you recognize the person in this photograph as Amber Heard?
These pictures, it's like literally.
Yes.
The picture. This is the same day.
Does this picture accurately reflect what you saw on Amber Heard on December 16, 2015?
Yes.
Ms. Iglesias, could you please describe what you did by way of makeup to prepare Amber Heard for the James Corden show on December 16, 2015?
Yes, we covered, I just did makeup, but just a little heavier way knitted. So we covered, the discoloration, the bruises with a little slightly heavier concealer, one that has a little more of a peach undertone, which I would normally don't use on Amber, but peach do cancel blue. So I did that under the eyes, and although Amber always, has a red lip, is one of her signature look, I remember clearly talking that we had no other option that night but then to use a red blood, like a really red lipstick to, make sure we could cover up the injuries on the lip.
And were you able to cover all of the injuries with the makeup that you applied and as you just described?
Yes.
Ms. Iglesias, if you could look at what has been marked as exhibit number 22, do you recognize Amber Heard in that picture?
Yes.
Okay. And is this the picture of her, is this a picture of her that evening, December 16, 2015 on the James Corden show?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe on the difference in Amber Heard's demeanor before the show
James Corden
and then on the show?
has more injuries
that she had
than
the
she
ability
has.
to,
Look at
turn
those
it
eyes.
on. That she, the ability to do her job and perform how she was supposed to perform on the show.
And prior to Amber going on the show and while you were working with her on her makeup, how would you describe Amber's mood and demeanor?
Angry, sad, a little erratic, I think through waves of emotions,
Do you recall someone named Ms. McMillan having any role in helping to prepare Amber Heard for that James Corden show that night, December 16?
Yes.
What do you recall?
Samantha was a stylist. Samantha was there the day of the James Corden show, as she was always there to get her ready before an appearance or a show.
And did Samantha work on Amber before or after you were applying the makeup?
I don't know if she worked on Amber, but when I entered the Penthouse 5, Samantha was there with Amber. So Samantha was there before I entered the penthouse.
And do you recall whether Samantha was hugging Amber when you came in?
I recall opening the penthouse. So there's two penthouses. There's a penthouse where she gets ready. So Amber at the penthouse where Samantha gets her ready, where all Amber's clothes is. If I recall properly, that's the penthouse that I enter first, just to say hi before I would go set up in the other penthouse. And my recollection is when I enter, Amber was crying, looked pretty upset.
Oh my God.
On Samantha's shoulder, or they were like, I don't know if hugging is the right way, but they would definitely had a moment where they were together, and Amber looked really upset.
Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask just a couple more questions about the makeup that you applied on Amber on December 16, 2015 for the James Corden show. I think you said that you had applied some concealer and that you had some peach undertones with it to cancel out some blue. Did I hear that correctly? I was asking about, I wrote down that you said that you had applied on Amber concealer, you had some peach undertones to cancel blue. Is that what you said? So what type of concealer did you apply to Amber? And if you use different color tones, can you please describe why you used the color tones you did?
I used a different kind of concealer that I would normally use on Amber, which I used a concealer that had peach undertone. Peach undertone concealer are more effective to cover any darkness of blue undertone that a normal concealer.
Do you know what type of makeup Amber Heard typically wore?
Objection, vague and
Can you please describe for me?
Yes, she's pretty natural. She has a concealer from a company called, or she used to have a concealer from a company called Clé de Peau. Her makeup would be pretty simple, concealer and a little benefit tint that she used on her lips and she used on her cheeks. Very natural.
It had a natural look to it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But she did wear concealer and what you described, correct?
Do you mean in her daily life or that night?
In her daily life.
Yes, she has a concealer that she uses all the time, and she has a couple of products that she uses all the time, daily, yes. Well, I mean daily, yes, as far as I know.
And do you feel confident in what you described that you saw that day of Amber Heard's injuries? And I'm talking about December 16, 2015.
1,000%, without a doubt. Because I just don't remember, it's 5 years ago, I don't remember the exact date.
And could you describe Amber Heard's demeanor in those days before and after the filing for divorce and for the domestic violence restraining order?
An area of different emotion, definitely from sadness to not wanting to divorce to anger to being really upset to being really sad. So it was just a roller coaster of emotion that I think we were all there those couple of days to help navigate and go through it.
I take it from your response today, you still feel very emotional about this. It's very difficult for you, isn't it?
It's not difficult for me, no, but it just reminded me at the time how I felt, yes.
When did you first tell Ms. Heard that you were no longer interested in having her as a client and being friends with her?
That phone call, about a month ago.
How was it said?
Well, I just told Amber that, I wish her well and I just have no interest in continuing a relationship, whatever it's work-wise or friendship-wise.
But is there a specific reason other than the birth of your child and the postpartum issues that you described, both as client and Ms. Iglesias?
Oh,
what was your
interesting.
impression of Mr. Depp when you first met him?
Now it's interesting.
You thought he was lovely?
Yeah.
Go Camille, go
Was
Camille.
each of the, well, let me ask the backup question. Did you interact with Mr. Depp? How many times did you interact with Mr. Depp?
Through, you mean all in all?
Oh, yes. The entirety of your interactions. How many were there? Approximately.
5, maybe less than 10. Maybe, yeah.
And would you describe all your interactions with Mr. Depp as, quote, lovely?
Yes.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp act in a violent manner?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp yell at Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever see him kick Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp throw an object at Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp slap Ms. Heard?
No.
Punch her?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp kick Ms. Heard?
No.
Is it fair to say, Ms. Iglesias, that you never saw Mr. Depp be physically abusive towards Ms. Heard?
Correct.
Quick, believable.
And you never saw Mr. Depp cause any injuries to Ms. Heard, correct?
Did I ever saw him causing any injuries? No.
Very good.
And so any injuries that you claim to have seen on Ms. Heard, you don't know one way or another how they were caused, correct?
Correct.
Very good.
The only source of information that you have is Ms. Heard's own words, correct?
Correct.
Very good.
Did you hear Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard having a fight on the phone?
I was there. I was present in the room.
But just to confirm, could you hear Mr. Depp's voice?
No.
So fair to say that the only voice you heard was Ms. Heard's, correct?
Correct.
And so you don't know what Mr. Depp said to Ms. Heard on that phone call, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall any other occasions where you witnessed a fight
Very
between Mr.
interesting.
Depp and Ms. Heard,
Very interesting.
or heard about an incident or a fight between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, other than the three that we've now discussed?
I would say every time. I would say that during my friendship with Amber, before she files for divorce, which, I mean, timeline, I don't know, a year, maybe a year and a half, it was always some conflict, some fight, some physical fights, some verbal fights, some kind of problem, it always was a problem, a problematic. It was very consuming for me. It was all consuming about that relationship. It was a very consuming friendship, and hence that's why I decided not to continue it.
Wow.
But you yourself, Ms. Iglesias, didn't witness
Wow.
any of these altercations, fights, arguments, correct, between Mr.
Correct.
Depp? I think you testified that you interacted with Mr. Depp less than 10 times. When you did interact with Mr. Depp, was Ms. Heard present each of those times?
All of those times.
Did you find him particularly loving towards Ms. Heard?
No, not particularly, no.
And during these interactions with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, at that time, you were aware that Mr. Depp allegedly was abusing Ms. Heard, correct?
This is interesting,
Well,
man.
most of the interaction that I had was towards the end of
Thank you, Drogo.
2015, right? I'm assuming, so I was not fully aware yet of, I guess, the seriousness of the fight, if I can say so. I think, most of the time I saw them together was towards the end of before December 15. So Thanksgiving, that time, and Amber's, I think, birthday, I'm getting into the date. So the few times that I saw Mr. Depp was before I understood the seriousness of the fight.
Understanding, again, came from Ms. Heard only, correct?
Well, Miss Heard and some of her friends, yes.
Who were some of her friends?
Rocky, Rachel Pennington, Ayo, Twillett, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Josh, Drew, the people that were leaving, her sister,
Wow.
Whitney.
So much for not having friends.
Those were the core group.
She has more friends than I've ever had all my
Thanksgiving
life.
with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard. Was that in Thanksgiving, November 2015?
Yes, correct, because they were divorced by May 2016, so yes.
How would you describe that evening?
Awkward,
Why?
because Marilyn Manson was there?
Did you know Marilyn Manson?
No, but it just was an awkward Thanksgiving sitting there. It was quite intimate. So it was just awkward. He's just an awkward being, and it's just awkward to be around. So it was
An awkward
it was
being.
an awkward evening.
Do you recall Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard having any type of disagreement or fight that evening?
Disagreement, maybe, like a disagreement.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there was, it was such a small, intimate surrounding that you pick up on things. And so I could tell that it was awkward. It was just awkward. I think Mr. Depp and Mr. Manson disappeared for a while, then everybody was at the table, so they was wondering where they were. It was just awkward.
And you're pretty sure they had a fight because Ms. Heard told you after the fact that they had a fight, correct? Because you did not witness Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard having any type of fight the evening of Thanksgiving, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Iglesias, do you have an independent recollection of going to the penthouse in downtown Los Angeles on December 15th, 2015?
I have an independent recollection
That's
of
fine.
going to the
Go on.
penthouse before one of the incident.
Yeah.
And at the time, I couldn't recall if it was the day before the James Corden or the day before the fun incident. So and that is what I made sure I needed to remember, that it was the day before December 16th. Yes. Does that make sense? So I knew I had come a day before, a day before one of the two biggest fights and I wasn't sure if it was that day or that day.
She was really
December.
trying to remember, actually.
And sitting here today, you're still not sure if you went to the penthouse on December 15th, 2015, or if it was the day before the May incident in 2016. Okay. And when you went to the penthouse on December 15th, I believe you testified before that you didn't see any injuries on Amber Heard that evening, correct?
Sorry, I don't recall seeing any injuries on Amber that day, that night.
Very good.
Do you recall if Ms. Pennington was at the penthouse that evening?
Yes.
Do you recall if anybody else was at the penthouse that evening?
I don't recall.
But you do remember Ms. Heard being there and Ms. Pennington, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Oh, she looks credible. I mean, there are a lot of things.
Did you take any photographs of Ms. Heard the evening of December 15, 2016?
No.
Do you recall being present when any photographs of Ms. Heard were taken on December 15, 2015?
I don't recall.
Do you remember being present when photographs of Ms. Heard's injuries were taken on December 16, 2015?
No.
And did you take any pictures of Ms. Heard and her injuries on December 16, 2015?
No.
So I don't want to take up the time of showing you all the photographs Ms. Bredehoff showed you earlier today, but there were a number of exhibits. I think I marked them as exhibits 14 through 20 that you were shown earlier this morning. Just to confirm, you didn't take any of those photographs, correct?
Not on my phone, not with my phone, and I do not recall taking Amber's or Rocky's phone to take those pictures. No, definitely not with my phone. I do not recall taking physically myself those pictures. No, I don't recall.
Would it be normal for Ms. Heard to have makeup on her face before you arrived to do her makeup ahead of an appearance?
It would be normal for Amber to have concealer on, a little of that tint there, yes, because it is quite normal for Amber to wash her face. She always liked to wash the face before the makeup with the product that she likes, do a toner, so it wouldn't be abnormal for her to have a little makeup before and then wash her face and start clean.
But you don't remember one way or another whether Ms. Heard had a fresh face with toner and moisturizer on when you arrived on December 16th, 2015, correct?
No, I do not. I don't recall.
Would she usually wash her face and go through that process in front of you?
Yes, I mean in front of me in her bathroom, but we were close, so it wouldn't be abnormal for me to be chit-chatting with her while she cleaned her face and I don't think specifically in front of me or not in front of me, but yeah, I mean, she would wash her face in the bathroom, which is adjacent to where we get her ready.
And I want to be really specific. So, based on your best recollection, what injuries did you see on Miss Heard on December 16th, 2015?
Amber had a slight discoloration on both eyes and on the top of the bridge of the nose, and and I do believe the right eye had a little more of a gash right there. It wasn't that strong, it wasn't that swollen, but it was definitely some blue and yellow discoloration there, mainly on the inner corner and a little more here. And then she had on the right lip, as I said earlier, I'm not sure the exact medical term, but it looked like a split lip or like a gash here.
Did you ever see Miss Heard's lip bleed on December 15th or December 16th? But you remember that it was not bleeding on December 16th when you were applying the makeup, correct?
When I was applying the makeup, correct.
How about before you were applying the makeup? Do you recall it bleeding?
I don't recall.
And I think you described it as either a gash or a split lip.
I don't know what would be the medical term for
Basically
it. I don't know what kind of injury would have caused this. I'm not a medical expert,
from
no
a dry lip or
forensic
something.
expert, but it was slightly swollen. And by the way, you can see it in that video, so it's crazy to me, but it was slightly swollen, and there was either a gash or
there is no video.
a scab. No, not a scab, but it was swollen with some kind of cut.
Do you recall Miss Heard ever having a cold sore on her lips?
No.
You said there was slight discoloration under both eyes. Was there swelling under both eyes as well?
We'll clarify swelling. Maybe very little, but it was mainly discoloration too. I recall mainly discoloration, like a bruise. Maybe there was a little tiny swelling on one of the eye that was a little more injured than the other, but not huge swelling, no.
I believe your testimony earlier today was that he lightly headbutted her. Is that correct?
I wasn't there. I don't know if he lightly or not lightly headbutted her.
That was your testimony, that it appeared as if she had been, quote, lightly headbutted. Do you remember saying that earlier today?
And maybe I was misquoted. It's not my position to say how headbutted she was or anything. And maybe I'm misquoted.
Okay. And did she show you the hair that was missing?
She showed us, me and the hairdresser, the hole where the hair was missing on top of the head.
And was Miss McMillan there as well?
No, Samantha McNair was really never when we get ready. So it was two separate things, and Samantha never really comes up when we get ready, no.
But just to confirm, these injuries, right, that you saw on Miss Heard on December 16th, 2015, you don't know how they were caused, correct?
Correct.
And so any information you have about how the cause of these injuries came from Miss Heard only?
From December 16, correct.
Well, any injuries other than Miss Heard and her friends, you never witnessed Mr. Depp being violent or abusive towards Miss Heard and causing any injuries.
Correct.
So let's talk about the makeup that you actually used to conceal these injuries on her face on December 16th. I believe you testified you used a concealer with a peach undertone.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have training and experience dealing with injuries or covering up bruising on people? Do you have any specific experience or education?
Specific experience, I have experience in doing bruises and cover bruises for special effect. Yeah, I mean, throughout my career, I have created bruises, and I also have covered bruises for, with models.
I've created
or
bruises.
real life things, whatever it is. So, yeah, I have experience in covering some bruises, yes.
She gave
How about
herself
swelling?
away.
Same question.
I mean, it's a little harder to cover swelling. That would be maybe, try to bring the swelling down. Covering it up would be not really.
Oh,
would be harder.
that's important. This is
And
important.
how about cuts?
Yeah,
Specifically as it relates to Ms. Heard's makeup look on December 16th. Do you recall what foundation you used?
the brand.
You probably don't remember the brand, but do you recall the shade that you used?
How would I? No, it's 5 years ago. Absolutely not.
Do
The
you recall?
no.
But you do have a specific recollection of using a peach undertone concealer.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because Amber always had in her bag, we have the same concealer. She has a concealer from a brand called Glitter Pro. And it's a specific shade. It's beige. Beige was Amber's color for under her eyes, period. So the day, December 16, I didn't use beige. There's another concealer that has a little more peach in there and orange. It's called Honey, from the same family, and I use that instead. And I think I have a wheel that is a bruise wheel that has different colors, and you pick up the color to gently touch up any darkness.
Did you make a different choice for her overall look other than the concealer as a result of the injuries that you saw on her face on December 16th?
Not a different choice, but I remember we specifically, I know you read it before, we had a red lip. It was not uncommon for her. We know she has a signature red lip, so it's not suddenly it was, oh my gosh, she has a red lip. But I remember that day I specifically structure my makeup. There's a couple of things we do with Amber. We do a smoky eye and a nude lip or a red lip, and I remember specifically thinking of my makeup about we needed to highlight there to try to not draw attention there, and the red lips was our only option to cover that red cut that was there. So that I remember very specifically thinking that we had to have a red lip, sharp brows, and construct the makeup to take away from here. So basically, it's not going to be nothing to you guys, but just basically a lot of highlight up here to kind of not focus on this. I remember talking about it very clearly.
And forgive my ignorance, but what did you do to cover up the cut on the lip other than apply a red lip?
A red lip. A red lip. It is swollen. I can see it in the video on the James Corden show. So her lips was swollen. It was big on that side. You can see it. There's nothing I can do about that. But we did a really dark red lip to match that red gash or cut, whatever that was there.
Do you recall Ms. Heard being hindered as a result of the injury on her lip? And when I say hindered, I mean, did she have trouble opening her mouth widely, or, did she complain about it hurting or splitting open and bleeding? Do you recall any of that?
I don't recall.
And again, just to confirm, on December 15th, 2015, you don't recall seeing any injuries, including a split lip on Amber Heard, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall having any specific conversation with the hairstylist that was doing Ms. Heard's hair on December 16th, 2015, as it related to the abuse that Ms. Heard was describing for you?
Yeah, yes. We talked a bit about it, yes.
She has moments
What do you recall about that conversation?
of being believable and moments where I think,
I think everybody was a little like, whoa,
Little
shit,
sus.
okay. I think everybody was a little surprised. Everybody was a little like not knowing how to move forward with it. But we talked, as I said, when Amber was in the chair and Adia was behind her and I was in front of her. I recall the three of us having this conversation, and I recall Adia showing me the hole there.
But just to confirm, you don't know how that chunk of hair was missing from Ms. Heard's head. You don't know what caused that chunk of hair to be missing, correct?
I don't know it, correct.
You don't have any personal knowledge, I should say, as to how that chunk of hair came to be missing from her head.
Well, I did not witness it, correct.
Alex, may I please have you bring up Depp 9? Ms. Iglesias, you've testified previously that you see, watching the video clip, right, you see Ms. Heard's, you see the swollen lip and you see bruising.
Yeah. I see, I've known that face. I know that face so well. I've done it so many times. I can tell where the bruises are, and I can tell where the swollen lip is, correct.
I honestly couldn't see.
So, Ms. Iglesias, do you mind please identifying for me, is this, does this photograph accurately depict Ms. Heard on the James Corbin show on December 16th, 2015?
Oh yeah, please, let's see.
Yes.
Let me see.
But can you describe for me where you see bruising on Ms. Heard's face?
Well, I didn't say I saw bruise, but I saw the discoloration. I can see my makeup, so I see the discoloration on the right eye, just right under. I see that little dent there. And also, I mean, this is a picture that is, you know, taking, this is not a really accurate picture. She's sideways, the light is one way, you know, but yeah, there's better pictures that you can see. But if you give me the mouth, I will show you, but there's other still picture when you can see the split lip better, or the swollen lip. So I mean, I can see there's better pictures where you can see that side of her lip is swollen, this here.
And when you're pointing, just to, for the record, you're pointing to the right side of Ms. Heard's lip, correct?
Correct. It's here. It's nothing. But as I said, there's better pictures. She's sideways. There's better pictures where you can see what I feel you can see better. But
it might be the same photograph.
Yeah, she's still sideways.
But Ms. Iglesias, this is your testimony that you believe you can see swelling on the right side of Ms. Heard's lip.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see any bruising or concealed bruising under her eyes?
Well, I mean, I know I've concealed those bruises, so yeah, so I can see them because I know I did it, but so that's neither here or there, but yeah, I mean, I can see them just on the eyes, on the right eyes. I can see the little gash right there. And I can, all that darkness, right, I mean, I don't have the mask anymore, but all that darkness right there, that is not eyeshadow. And that is neither dark circle for not sleeping. This is part of the little, you know, the injury is showing through.
Do you see any discoloration or bruising on the bridge of her nose?
I do not. No, I must have done a great job there.
Do you recall anything about Ms. Heard's appearance?
I must have done a great job there.
When you first encountered her in Coachella
Lady,
Valley?
you lost a little bit of credibility now.
No, I don't recall.
Did you notice any injuries on Ms. Heard?
I don't recall.
Do you recall Ms. Heard discussing any abuse that she had sustained the night of her birthday on April 21st, 2016 by Mr. Depp?
Yes.
What do you recall about that?
I recall there was a fight, there was...
Who told you?
I don't remember. I don't exactly recall the fight. I know there was a fight and there was some problem. That's why they were late coming back to Coachella's. I don't recall exactly what she told me, but
exactly.
There was some problem the night before, yes.
But you don't remember seeing any injuries on Ms. Heard after her birthday dinner in April of 2016, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall seeing any injuries on Ms. Heard's face at that dinner on May 24th, 2016?
I don't recall.
Do you recall Ms. Heard's general demeanor at the dinner on May 24th, 2016?
What I remember about that dinner is that she was, and I'll tell you why I remember this clearly, because she was very distraught. and she was very confused if she should file or not for divorce. And she was really sad and upset and angry and all of it. And I remember that because that night, I actually physically took her phone. So she should not, so that if Johnny tried to reach out to her again, she wouldn't have a phone that night, and she would go through the divorce tomorrow, the next day. So I remember physically having her phone, and when I dropped them back at the penthouse, she said, "Keep my phone, so if you contact me, I won't know, I won't cave, and I will file for divorce tomorrow."
Cave.
So I went home in my house with her phone, and that's why I remember. That's why it's sticking in my mind. And then the next morning, and you can see in those texts, she said, "I need my phone." And then I had to drive to the penthouse and give her phone back. And at the time, that day, I'm assuming she filed for divorce, and that day the whole circus started.
And you believe that Ms. Heard should go through with the divorce, correct?
Correct.
And that was based on what exactly, Ms. Iglesias?
On what she told me on her recollection of her marriage.
I think you testified earlier that Amber's practice was to wear concealer, some foundation, moisturizer, things of that nature. Do you have any recollection that Amber strayed from that and did not wear makeup during the week of May 21st, 2016?
No.
Do you have any recollection that week of thinking, "Oh my goodness, Amber Heard isn't wearing her makeup this week"?
No.
So, do you know whether Amber Heard took any steps to reduce her swelling during this, in preparation for the James Corden show?
Yes, she took arnica.
Arnica, the cream.
We had arnica gel. And I always have arnica gel in my kit.
The miracle
anyway.
cream is back.
And she had arnica gel. She used arnica gel and some ice.
And what does arnica gel do with respect to swelling?
I use arnica gel in my kit to bring any swelling area of my client's face down.
And how does that typically work? What's your experience?
It just brings the swelling down. I mean,
a
not
miracle
drastically,
cream, basically.
But it helps with the swelling a little bit.
Oh man, miracles. Miracle creams.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor, we have another video.
Okay, if you could approach for a moment, let me just...
Certainly.
Oh man, please, Judge, just send them home. Like, we have had enough today of boring people. Honest to God. Send them home. Like, Hurley Cole. So we rest a little bit. She's a little bit suspicious. There were moments where she was very believable because she seemed really to recollect from her memory. But then again, I think there is also that she was told basically everything. She was told. So she's trying to remember what she was told. So in her memory, it is true that whatever happened because she remembers being told. So for real. So probably she's reminiscing that day when she put the makeup on, she was told something, so she was trying to remember. You could really see, in my opinion, that she was trying to remember what she heard at the time, what Amber told her at the time. So again, nothing new, no news. About the discoloration, about the little bruising, there are some incongruences there because would have been interesting also to show where she pointed out, of course, like because in the video I know it's on that side, the swelling, but when I saw those pictures on the James Corden, she has only lipstick on. That's what she said. To me, honestly, the lips, they don't seem much different. I will look at it again. So there seemed like to be a moment where she was genuine, recalling, but at the same time then she kind of slipped on herself, especially when she talked about having experience with covering bruises and actually creating them because of a special effect. So she seemed to have that kind of expertise, and that's what I lost a little bit, like, you know, the trust, you know. It's like maybe she helped her. Well, you don't know. I'm just saying you don't know.
All right, your next
It'd be
witness.
interesting.
We're going to call Christy Sexton, and this is by video
Would be interesting
deposition
to
as
hear
well.
again the makeup artist from the James Corden
Be the
show
last one for the day.
to see what she witnessed, you know, from up close.
Some preliminaries. Ms. Sexton, why don't you state your whole name for the record and your current address?
Christina Lisette Sexton, Queensland, Australia.
For how long, Ms. Sexton, have you lived in Australia?
I've been at that address since July 2017. There was a transitionary period.
I'll cover my belly,
I met
that's
my
fine.
husband in December of 2015. So 16 and 17 decisions on which country we were going to move to and such. So I did not establish residency here until July, and then began all my paperwork subsequently when we were married in October of 2017.
Where's this woman?
So I take it from your last answer, Ms. Sexton, that Australia was the lucky winner for which country you and your husband would choose to live in. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
And do you currently have a job? Do you currently work right now in Australia?
Yes, I'm an acting coach.
When was it, to the best of your recollection, that she took a class that you were a TA in?
I believe it was sometime in 2009.
For how long did you remain Amber Heard's primary or exclusive acting coach?
I don't know about exclusive. We don't have any sort of exclusivity contracts. She may work with other coaches. The last time we worked on a project together would be Aquaman, so 2017. I don't know about exclusive. We don't have any sort of exclusivity contracts. She may work with other coaches. The last time we worked on a project together would be Aquaman, so 2017.
Okay, so the first movie, or the first TV series, I should say, that you recall working on as an acting coach with Amber Heard was the Playboy Club.
Yes.
Listed there 2011.
Yes.
I take it from what you just described that although the frequency varied, it's fair to say, is it not, that you saw Ms. Heard many, many, many times during the period between 2010 and 2017?
Oh, yes.
Would it be fair to say that you saw Ms. Heard during this 7-year period more than 100 times?
Easily, yes.
And when you say easily, do you think it's also fair to say that you saw her more than 200 times?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to go up another 100. Same answer for 300 times?
Yeah. As I said, when I would see her, it would be multiple times a week in preparation for a project.
When's the last time that you had a session with Amber Heard as her primary acting coach?
Mid-2017.
During that early period when she lived on Orange Avenue, how would you describe, Amber Heard as an actor?
She was really focused on moving to the next level of her career and really stretching herself as an actor. Which is why she started coaching so much at that time and initially even went to classes.
This is not
so
looking good
she was
on
really
you. I'm
driven
sorry
to do a
say
lot
that.
of work and kind of mine out everything that we could from the text and go over things a lot. So she was very driven as an actor to, I would say, get to the next phase of her career.
We're looking at Sexton 1. Refresh your recollection as to when that took place. That's the IMDb page.
Yes, it was either 2011 or 2012. If it's saying that it came out in 2011, then the premiere would have been in 2011, so yeah.
When was the next time you recall seeing Johnny or Mr. Depp?
I would say sometime in the middle of the following year.
So sometime in the middle of 2012, you think?
Yeah.
And where was that?
At her house on Orange. I remember seeing him quite a bit. In the early period.
Again, I'm focused on the early period. Did you have occasion to run into Mr. Depp at your coaching sessions with Amber later when she moved into Sweetser Avenue and then at the penthouse in downtown Los Angeles?
Yes, I did see him often at both Sweetser and the downtown house.
And over that period of time, did you observe changes in Mr. Depp's behavior?
Yeah, Johnny became, I would say, much darker as time went on. He was, like, figuratively and literally, he would sit in dark rooms. The art overall changed, like everything got much darker in the houses with like heavy, it was always a little, I don't know what the art form would be, dark, but it just like literally lighting would go down and big curtains would be everywhere, and he became much less talkative as time went on. I would see less and less of him personally. I would hear him in the house, but I would see less and less of him interaction-wise. And when I did, he wasn't very happy.
What would you hear him say on those occasions when you could hear him but not see him?
At different points in time, I heard different things. Sometimes it would just be him milling around the house. Sometimes it would be him having conversations with his team, bodyguards and stuff, or his friends that were over making music at the Sweetser location. Sometimes it was him and Amber fighting. Like, I was in his home, so I heard him quite a bit.
You said a couple of answers ago that from time to time you would hear Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard fighting. Can you, again, keeping in mind that it's a long time ago, can you describe what you heard?
I would say I would just hear a lot of him yelling. His voice would carry through kind of the halls of the house. And then, like, I remember one time in specific that I could hear Amber was trying to get out of the room, and then the door shut again, and then I could just hear muffled yelling on his part.
At the beginning of their relationship, once Ms. Heard has revealed to you that they were in fact in a relationship, did she talk to you about Mr. Depp's struggles with drugs and alcohol?
In the early parts of their relationship, she had said that he was sober. She was trying to support him in his sobriety. And then subsequently throughout the relationship, we would talk about his breaks in sobriety.
Based on your work as Ms. Heard's acting coach, primary acting coach, was it your understanding that Mr. Depp had opinions about what role Ms. Heard should take?
There were a couple of occasions where I actually heard Johnny say, why would you want to do that kind of role? My woman isn't going to play that kind of role. Stuff like that I heard a few times from him over the course of time.
Other than saying that hearing Mr. Depp say he didn't want his woman playing a whore, did you ever hear him use any other language like that about the kind of roles that Ms. Heard was being offered? To focus you in, Ms. Sexton, I'm talking about the period when Amber and Johnny were together in a relationship until you stopped being her acting coach in 2017. And I'm focusing in on what you recall hearing from Mr. Depp about what roles he thought Ms. Heard should play.
As I said, he would be sitting, initially when she lived in the Orange location, sometimes he would be nearby. It was a fairly small house, and he would be nearby and kind of earshot. So there were times that he was kind of just disparaging. That's a shitty role. Why would you do that? That kind of thing. But he wasn't super negative then. Later on, as it went on, he was very vocal about the negative terms. Like I said, he called it a whore part or a trash part, or a piece of shit, all sorts of things like that. Generally pretty negative if it was something he didn't want her to do.
Did the number of roles that Ms. Heard auditioned for change during the time that she was involved with Mr. Depp?
Yes, it did. It was decreasing as it went, and there would be stretches of time where she wasn't auditioning at all or working on anything at all.
During the time that Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were together, did you observe changes in their relationship over time?
Yeah, early on they were incredibly lovey-dovey and passionate and always together in a positive way. They were very playful and friendly. And then I would see less and less of them together, and I would hear a lot of muffled arguments through the walls. And when I did see him, sometimes the balance would shift. It went from being like a normal couple to very tension-filled, especially those last few months that they were together. And yeah.
Did they, was there a withdrawn? Did the number of times that Ms. Heard was late for or canceled sessions with you change as her relationship with Mr. Depp went on in time?
Yeah, as I said earlier, Amber was never late when we worked at the studio. And then as it went on, I began having to actually build in a cushion of an hour around her appointment. It started out just an extra 15 minutes here and there because she'd be late coming downstairs, or they'd be discussing, or he had to talk to her at that moment in time. And eventually, as the relationship progressed and the fighting got heavier, I would have to build in time because she'd be sobbing at the beginning of sessions and we couldn't work until we got her together. Yeah, I ended up having to do a lot of cushion time around her just so that we could actually get something accomplished because she was often very upset.
Did you have occasion to observe Ms. Heard crying, naturally, not acting, when you had coaching sessions with her during the time that she was together romantically with Mr. Depp?
Interesting.
I would say the last year they were together, probably 80-90% of our sessions began with her crying.
Wow.
And that would be increasing as it went on. Ironically, she has a little difficulty crying, acting-wise, so which a lot of us do.
So we know that she was really faking it.
Yeah, we would have to work when we were doing it acting-wise, but it was a lot towards the end there. A lot of crying sessions.
Based on your testimony here, Ms. Sexton, is the crying that she did in a role different than the crying you observed so often in the last year of her relationship with Mr. Depp?
Yes, inherently acting crying is very different, unless somebody is working in what's called method, in which that's an entirely different thing where they focus on their own stuff. So she's not a method actor, so it would be completely different.
Speaking for your own self, Ms. Sexton, how did you react?
She literally called her out. She can't cry. So we know she was faking it.
I have a caretaker personality, so I would prioritize taking care of the person in front of me over doing work, which is why I ended up building in all that extra time, because I cared about her as a human and I wanted to be there for her in as much as I could as a friend. So there's no point on working on something if someone isn't fully there or they're upset. It's more important to deal with the person and take care of them than work.
And during those sessions, particularly in the last year when you saw Ms. Heard crying so often, what was your understanding of the reason for her tears?
I would hear them fighting and then hear her come in, and she would be a wreck after she came in. I couldn't make out what they were saying, and I personally wasn't trying to listen to their fights, so I would just hear the sounds of the screaming. And her usually, you could tell she would open the door and try to get him to be quiet, and then it'd go back to him yelling. And so that would directly occur before she would come down and be upset and trying to pull herself together.
What do you recall seeing her say she told you that they were fighting about?
I was witness to some of those. He didn't want her going out without any sort of security or any team. He didn't want her going and doing things just on her own.
You described earlier in your testimony, Ms. Sexton, what Amber Heard was like when you first met her. During this period when she was involved with Mr. Depp, in particular,
Man, I can't wait to cut that piece out
did her
and repost
behavior
it.
change?
Over the course of time, she became more and more of a hermit, only leaving the house when she had to. Again, as I said earlier, literally the houses became darker with the curtains drawn all the time. I remember one time in particular when she was living at the Eastern Columbia that we went downstairs to get a slice of pizza. I think there were 4 of us, and Amber gave a homeless kid down there some money, and we helped him get to the bus stop, and we came back up, and Johnny yelled at her about going out, and that she knew better than to be going out at night and that kind of thing. And when we tried
he was protecting her. I know that area.
We got pizza downstairs at the building across the street. Then he just started screaming and getting really angry. So I made my way out.
What about her weight? Did you notice any changes during that period in her weight? Just to be clear, Ms. Sexton, I'm asking about the time that she was involved with Mr. Depp.
So Amber is one of those people that loses weight when she's stressed out. So she would drop weight and look skeletal at certain points in time. I remember right before their wedding, she had lost a significant amount of weight to the point that I was asking her if she was eating regularly. So she's always been fit, but she would drop down and get a little gaunt if she was super stressed out.
And in that last year that she was involved with Mr. Depp, do you know changes in her weight?
Yeah, she lost a significant amount of weight, and I noticed it specifically because I had been in Australia doing a film, and then when I came back, so I'd been in Australia since December, I came back in February, and she looked she was skin and bones.
This one.
Like she was much thinner than she normally was at that point. So I know during that time period that she had lost a lot of weight and she was very gaunt.
Now, I'm going to...
No, this is the acting coach, not the doctor.
Specific incidents. But for now, Ms. Sexton, I want to speak just generally about things you observed and saw. And the first question I have in that regard is, during the time that you were Amber Heard's acting coach and she was involved with Mr. Depp, did you observe injuries on Ms. Heard?
When she came back from Australia, there were a lot of like little red marks on her arms that looked like freshly healing things. Skin, like red marks on her skin, on her arms that I saw. And then subsequently I would see like bruises that look like arms being grabbed or wrists. Then I saw that all towards the end.
Did there come a time when you accompanied Amber Heard and Johnny Depp to Hicksville, California?
Yes, I went to Hicksville for Johnny's birthday celebration with them.
And in your own words, can you tell me about that trip and what happened chronologically?
We arrived at Hicksville and we had made kind of like a barbecue and drinks.
You know what I'm waiting for?
As we were having a lovely time.
When they ask her,
Johnny was playing guitar
have you ever seen
and
her
singing.
with bruises?
And then
and she's
as
never
the night
taken
went
any
on,
pictures in the 300
it was
times
like around
she has seen
sundown,
this
they
woman.
started passing around a bag of mushrooms and a bag of white powder. I didn't even partake in the alcohol because I had had surgery a few months before, so I was the only one stone cold sober. Then I went to bed early, and while my friend and I were in our trailer and we heard the fighting happening, Johnny screaming and a commotion, we didn't come out of our trailer, and then the quieting down and everyone being like, oh, it's okay. The bodyguards, I heard them running over there. And then the next morning when we got up, the group was talking about what had happened that night. And then I kind of left that conversation and went to the trailer to check on Amber. And I saw the completely torn apart trailer. Johnny was apologizing for what he had done, and he was instructing his bodyguards to just pay it off. Let's just take care of it. And I stayed with Amber. She was really shaken up.
The next day, can you describe for me what the trailer where Amber and Johnny were staying looked like?
The inside was in shambles. I remember seeing a light hanging off the wall. There was broken stuff everywhere. Dishes, it looked like, or not dishes, like the wood was broken. Things were hanging off the wall. It was in shambles on the inside.
I would love to see some pictures of that shamble.
And that next day, I think you said that you had occasion to see Mr. Depp. Is that correct?
I would love to see some
How did he
pictures.
look that next day when you saw the trailer?
He looked very worried. He was apologizing. He was saying he would take care of it. He was trying, he was like, don't worry about it, babe. We're going to get this taken care of. And Amber was really like closed off and quiet, and he just kept kind of apologizing to her over and over again, and then telling his bodyguards to just take care of it, just get it done, whatever it is, just pay for it. And then he went off to go have that conversation with them.
What was Mr. Depp saying that next day when he was apologizing?
I just remember him saying, I'm so sorry, babe, I'll take care of it. I know this is bad, but I can take care of it. I'm sorry I did this, that kind of thing.
I think you said, testified this earlier, but I want to make sure the record is clear. Did you recall Mr. Depp using the word monster that day?
I heard him on different times making apologies that he said, I'm sorry I turned into a monster. I just remember a profuse amount of apologies. I don't know if that time in particular had that verbiage.
Anything else about Hicksville that you remember that you haven't told me about?
I mean, the only thing I stated that I did see him eat the mushrooms. I saw him holding the white bag. I don't know what he did with that, the bag of white powder. Everyone except for me was drinking, and different people were partaking in different drugs at that time. So I didn't keep track of that. Yeah, I don't know anything else that I can recall.
Okay.
A little sus.
Go
A little
forward
suspicious.
to another incident. And that is the day of April 21, 2016, which I'll represent to you was Amber Heard's 70th birthday. Did you have occasion to see Amber Heard that day?
Yes, I attended the party.
And again, you say you attended the party. Can you describe the party you attended, who was there?
The party was happening in one of the penthouses, the one that they didn't live in. It's where they did most of their art, and we did most of our coaching. And I don't remember the number of that one. And there were several friends of Amber's there, and we spent the first couple hours waiting for Johnny. And then eventually Amber said, just let's not stop waiting for him, let's just start. So we went out to the balcony to start dinner, and that's when Johnny finally came down, and he was severely inebriated when he came down. And they, Brandon, I don't remember his last name, it starts with an M, escorted him, kind of helped him stay stable. And we went to the table and we started dinner, and Johnny and I was sitting 2 seats away from Johnny. Johnny and Amber clearly were very tense and had been, I don't know what they had been doing, but they were very tense, and he would try to kind of touch her and she would shy away. And then Rocky was trying to change the tone of the party because it had really gotten very somber at that point. And she asked everyone to kind of say their favorite story about Amber. And as we went around the table, everyone shared their stories. And when we got to Johnny, he started talking about that he remembered when he first met her, the imprint of Amber's ass on his couch were his words. And it just all kind of took a turn from there. She was clearly embarrassed. She asked him to stop, and he kept telling the story, and it got really
Whitney
awkward and uncomfortable at that point.
Took that story
never really
from here, probably
recovered any
as
sort of
a
jovial
refreshing
energy.
of the memory.
We ate, and then I left shortly thereafter.
I forgot to ask you this question about Hicksville. The day after, when you saw Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in the wrecked trailer, did Ms. Heard seem embarrassed?
Yeah, as I said, Amber was very closed off. She was very quiet. She had said,
guys,
"Don't come in.
This
I don't
doesn't
want you
look
to
so
see
good
this."
for Johnny, though, eh?
So
all those depositions,
yeah, she seemed
they're not
very
looking so
embarrassed.
great for him, honestly.
Now, switching forward to Amber's 30th birthday party, I think you testified that Mr. Depp seemed inebriated when he arrived. What's your basis for saying that?
He was slurring his words and wobbly on his feet. He ran into a couple things, which is when Brandon came over and kind of locked arms with him to kind of help him stand up.
You said you saw her later with a healing bruise. Where do you recall seeing that healing bruise?
On her cheek. It was on her right cheek. I think it was right. Yeah.
Do you know how long after the incident that you just discussed with the cell phone you saw Ms. Heard in her face?
It was a few days later, but I couldn't tell you exactly when. I mean, everyone heals at a different rate. I could still see kind of the yellow and stuff in there, so.
When was the last time you spoke to Amber? You said August of this year?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you spoke to her specifically? Do you remember?
We went over it was sometime in August. I can narrow it down to August, to have wine, have a glass of wine and catch up, because like I said, I think it had been 2 years since we had physically seen each other.
Both times when you met with Ms. Heard in August of this year, did you meet with her at her house?
This is Camille again.
Did Ms. Heard mention any of the allegations that Mr. Depp is making against her in relation to this case when you met with her?
Only to talk to the attorneys about it.
When you say only to talk to the attorneys about it, what specifically did Ms. Heard tell you?
Like she said, would you be willing to sit down and talk to my attorneys about everything that you witnessed? And then afterwards,
what did you witness? Oops.
After I kind of talked about it all, it felt really intense to me, and I felt incredibly guilty.
Was it during one of these 2 times that you met with Ms. Heard in August of this year that Ms. Heard told you for the first time that Mr. Depp had allegedly raped her with a bottle in Australia?
Yeah, she did talk about the bottle then, yeah.
Was it the first meeting that you had with Ms. Heard in August this year that she mentioned that?
No, it was after, like, I had come to see her and had a wine night and catch up, and then after I had talked to the attorneys, after we had a good cry, we were talking more about what had happened, and she was saying how she didn't even tell me everything, and yeah, that's when it came out.
And just to confirm, Ms. Sexton, Ms. Heard told you about the bottle incident in Australia where she claims Mr. Depp penetrated her with it before your deposition, your first deposition in the case in August of 2019?
Yes. It was after I had talked to the attorneys.
After you had spoken to the attorneys informally, correct, at her house?
Yeah.
But it was before you were formally deposed in this case on, I believe it was August 30th, 2019.
Yes.
And just to confirm and make the record really clear, this was the first time Ms. Heard had told you that Mr. Depp had allegedly penetrated her with a bottle in Australia, correct?
Yeah, she had told me about the assault with the bottle, being hit with the bottle and the broken glass and everything. And then she had told me about all that many times before. And then this time she started crying and sobbing and started telling me about the assault, the penetrative assault.
And when Ms. Heard told you about this alleged rape that occurred, did she know that you were going to be deposed by her attorney?
No, because they were all in the other room. And they didn't even tell me that they were like, we may have you for a deposition. And that's when I had said to them, if you're going to do that, I would appreciate it if you did it before I left the States. And they said, we may or may not need you. And it was a couple days later that they then sent me the contact and said, we are going to subpoena you.
Since you've known Ms. Heard, can you tell me how many times you spent maybe a significant amount of time with Mr. Depp?
I would say probably around like 10 or 20 times.
And of those 10 or 20 times that you saw Mr. Depp and spent maybe more significant time than him just passing through a room, how many times would you say he was or appeared to be sober?
Not many. If he was coming down to have a conversation, he was pouring a glass of whiskey or rolling a joint or having wine. It always seemed to me that he's not a social animal, if you will, and he would have a drink or a smoke in order to go talk to people, is what it felt like.
Shy guy.
So most of the time I saw him, it was that.
You would agree with me, though, Ms. Sexton, that someone getting a drink is different than someone appearing drunk, correct? For example, if it was his first drink of the day. So my question is a little bit more specific. Of the 10 or 20 times that you saw Mr. Depp, how many times did he appear inebriated? Not, holding a glass of whiskey or smoking a joint, but how many times did he appear inebriated to you?
I would say at least half, if not more.
How would you describe Mr. Depp's personality when he was or appeared sober versus when he appeared inebriated?
He was very quiet when he was sober, and before he would start drinking, he was very quiet. Almost a whisper, mumble most of the time. And then he would get very loud when he was inebriated, and he would go to like boisterous first and telling like cool stories and stuff, that kind of happy drunk, and then it would move into the loud, angry drunk.
She's lying. I don't know why. I don't like the way she. I don't know. She did something with the face. I don't trust her.
A couple of times, yeah.
When was the first time you witnessed Mr. Depp
appear to be angry and inebriated?
I couldn't tell you the first time per se. I have images in my head. I remember him like yelling and screaming, and the bodyguard coming over and being like, "Hey, boss, let's take this to another room."
Can you tell me as much as you can remember of that incident?
I remember being in the kitchen of that house, and he came down and he was yelling about something. Amber and I were having a conversation, and we were going to, I think we were going to work on something that day. It was later in the evening where it was really dark in there. Like I said, sometimes they drew all the curtains. In my memory, it's very dark. And he was yelling, and that older guy came and like scooped his arm around him and was like, "All right, boss, let's take this to another place." Because he was inebriated. I could tell from the way he was talking, and he was just kind of yelling. And I don't recall what was happening. It all kind of happened very quickly. I don't recall what he was yelling about, or if it was even at anybody. He was just kind of down there and drunk, and he scooped him up.
You anticipated my next questions, which were who was he yelling at and what was he yelling about. So you don't recall, is that correct?
No, I don't.
And you said the other instance that you remember of Mr. Depp appearing inebriated and being angry was at one of his penthouses in downtown LA, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
What were the circumstances that you remember about that incident?
I remember one time he was mad that people were in the house because I had just gotten there. I don't even remember. There might have been like 2 people there or something. I don't remember. But yeah, he was storming up those stairs to his office bedroom area. And then Amber and I went to the other penthouse to work.
And in either incident, both at Sweetser and at the penthouse, when you saw Mr. Depp and he appeared inebriated and was angry and yelling, did you see him hit Ms. Heard at any point?
No, I did not see him hit her.
Yeah. All the main parts
Did you see him kick Ms. Heard?
are never there.
see him kick her.
All the main parts are never
Did you see
there.
him throw something at Ms. Heard?
I saw him coming at her, and that's when the bodyguard stepped in, like coming towards her. But I did not, like, so throwing himself at, like, but I was not witness to him throwing objects at her.
When you say he was coming at her, are you describing the incident at Sweetser or at the penthouse?
Sweetser, he came in through that hallway, and we were sitting at, it was kind of like an island there, like right in front of the fridge, and I was in front of the fridge, and he came in from there, was like coming at her, and then the bodyguard, like, came in and scooped him up.
So basically, no one has ever
You
seen.
don't remember what Mr. Depp
Everybody
was
has seen
yelling about,
bruises, one way or
Yeah.
another.
Yes.
Nobody has ever seen any violence
But it appears to
anywhere
you-
taking place.
that Mr. Depp was coming at Ms. Heard.
Yeah.
Correct?
She was shaking and upset. It felt like something that had been going on for a while.
And all the time that you've known Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp, did you ever see Mr. Depp be violent towards Ms. Heard?
I never saw him hit her. I heard him use terminology, as I said before, and as I said, come at her, but I never saw him hit her.
Thank you, Mona. I'll check. Thank you.
I would have called the cops, to be honest.
You never saw Mr. Depp throw anything at her, any objects at her, correct?
No, the only thing I saw was the aftermath. Like, I would see things broken afterwards.
So you don't have you
And
have
like
no
I said, in
idea
Hicksville, I heard
who
the
did
yelling,
that, if they
and
did
then
it
saw the
together.
breaking and saw him apologizing for it. But I, with my own 2 eyes, did not see him physically break the stuff or throw the stuff.
When Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard went to Australia, did she tell you that she threw a bottle of vodka at him and that's what severed his finger?
No, she had told me that he had broken the bottle and cut himself with the bottle that he had broken.
And you
When she told
you
you
said
that he had
that with
cut
a straight
himself with the
face,
bottle he
lady.
had broken,
Just
did she
remember
say
that.
He had taken the bottle and cut off his finger, or that it was an accident, and that his finger was severed from the broken bottle. Do you understand the distinction?
Yeah, she didn't say that he. She didn't indicate that he cut off, like went purposely to cut it. What it seemed to me is that he had broken the bottle against something, and then he was doing things with the bottle, like shaking it around, and that he had cut himself from that.
I want to see
Didn't
that.
indicate that he had in any way purposely cut himself.
Do you recall Johnny ever saying something to you in a conversation with him later about his ability to pass insurance tests?
I remember a specific time when Amber still lived at Orange, and Amber was out with her girlfriends, and I had come over too early for the party, so it was just Johnny and I sitting there having some whiskey, and he was smoking cigars, and he was talking about that it was, I said something about, he said he had to get up early to do a test, and I was like, oh, don't you have any sort of, like, concern about that? And he's like, it's easy to fake insurance tests. That's why we do what we do. I was talking to him because another client of mine had to do an insurance test, and he was like, oh, you can fake a piss test, you can do this. And he just kind of went over a few different ways that it's easy to fake insurance tests and made a joke of it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the day today, so have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Again, do not discuss the case with anybody and don't do any outside research, okay? Have a good evening.
Oh wow, guys! I'm gonna go straight to do a video memes, and I'm gonna cut that part out of the fake acting. I don't know, this lady, you know, like so many times I would almost like, oh wow, she's credible. But then I started to feel like that she was biased. You know, I started to feel that she was biased probably because...
Do you have any remote witnesses tomorrow that you need access for?
Do you need
a WebEx? You don't need a WebEx link?
Deposition designations and live witnesses.
Deposition and live witnesses. Okay, all right, that sounds good. All right, everybody knows their homework, right? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll see you in the morning.
So, all right. So she started to seem biased to me also because, you know, when you realize that she was the acting coach for like 200 plus sessions, then you also know that you kind of create a type of sympathy towards her, literally, because that's the person you connect the most. So obviously there is that kind of, everybody's really, today was a boring day, man. Like today, like everybody's like, bum. Bye, gone, ciao. We have had enough. Guys, thank you so much. We have endured this together. Almost 5,000 of us in here. We made it to the end. And we have Rottenborn. Rottenborn, I'm sorry, man. I mean, you know, we don't hate you. You just sound wrong. That's it. You know, like it's not your fault. You were born that way. But kidding aside, so it was a boring day, I have to say. Some of the stuff, though, to me, it didn't make Johnny look good, I have to admit. One way or another, I'm not an expert, but you always have to consider that this, you know, the jury, it's not supposed to know all the things that we have seen, at least I think. So you always have to see this in the perspective of the environment of the court, like, you know, the jury, you know, the court. That's what they see, that's what they hear, that's what they go by. So, you know, you listen to a person, there are moments that you can be swayed. You know, the jury can be swayed left or right, you know, towards Johnny, towards Amber. So all this, you know, all this Amber testimony definitely had points where it's undeniable that you felt like, oh, this seems credible, and therefore, like, you feel that the energy is shifting a little bit towards her team and so on and so forth. So you Yeah, but you look through the BS, then you start to pay close attention. There are a lot of incongruences, like with the makeup artist, with the strange fairy, like a widow queen, that she was like doing nothing but draining like vital energy from Camille and the rest of us, just staring into her like a bottomless eyes, and so there is a lot of incongruences in so many places. 99.9% of the time, nobody saw anything. They saw aftermath of everything, like bottles, this and that, banana on the floor, like trailers being roughed up or whatever. Nobody saw anything though. Like the juice, the main juice, nobody saw it. It's like having a pizza without tomato sauce. Everybody saw this pizza, nobody saw the tomato sauce. Where is the freaking tomato sauce for this pizza? Where? God damn it. We're getting tired here. So a pizza without tomato sauce is called focaccia. Here we have only the focaccia. Nothing. We have nothing to go by. So, yeah, that's it. That's basically it today. It was boring, was tedious. There were moments of shifting the energy towards the Humber camp, in my opinion. When you hear all those people saying more or less the same thing, you start to have a kind of picture that could be possible. The journey might be had like a darker period because of his addiction, because of his indulging into drinking and smoking and being more recluse. So it kind of came across a little bit that kind of darker energy, which, yeah, go figure. If it's true, it's not. But definitely you started to feel that it's a palpable in the room, that possibility, that image, that it's overing. So it all depends how much the jury saw into it or not. Again, to me, I heard a lot of incongruences, like every time when we go back to what matters the most, nobody saw anything, Also, this coach said that she saw the bruising a few days after she saw the yellow, whatever, but she didn't think of making a picture. And also, later on, she kind of found herself, like she slipped on herself in the sense that she said, if I had seen something, I would have called the cops. Yet, if she had really seen bruising that were that prominent, that really caused like swelling and yellowing that was healing, I wonder why she didn't mention nothing there, for instance, or inquire further. Just a question, just a thought. So, but the most beautiful thing is literally the acting coach calling Amber out to what we all saw and what we all felt, that she was fake crying, because the crying was no good. And then we realized that even the acting coach that worked with her for like hundreds of sessions literally said she can't cry. She's not a method actress, she can't cry. Oh my God. It's like, this is the best short video I'm gonna make today. I can't wait to go cut it. I have to go through it. I'm definitely gonna cut it. Oh, that's fantastic. And it was also interesting before the testimony of the other guy that, Whitney, the sister, said that she was getting isolated, over time. But then the ex-husband of Raquel said that at least more than 30 evening guests apparently, went visiting her. And then he kind of stepped back a little bit, saying like, yeah, but that's also the hallway that brings to the gym and the swimming pool. And I think nobody believes that manure, that bowl of, crap that you just said. Nobody really goes swimming in the evening. Maybe some people do, but most people, they definitely go in penthouse number 3. That's my suspicion, okay? That's where they were heading. So plenty of rough and tumble in the penthouse number 3, it seems. Maybe one of those pictures was taken after like a evening visit from one of those lovers, perhaps. I'm just speculating, guys. I'm just joking. Just want to remind everybody that most of the time I'm also kidding around, so that the algorithm of YouTube doesn't believe that I'm trying to spread any hatreds or whatever, because absolutely that's not my intention. We're just making it a little bit light-hearted, We're just making it a little bit lighter and having a little bit of mild fun with it. But obviously, we don't hate none of those people, not even Rottenborn, even though it would be very easy to dislike Rottenborn, but we don't hate him. We don't. We might even share like a coffee. He buys his own coffee, but I mean in the same space. I don't want another Rottenborn to drink and sip from my own cup. Just saying. So that's all I take away from this, honestly, today. I mean, I wish those video thing there. I think those video deposition, especially when are on the side of I don't know, they just give me the impression, that you're listening to a story. There is no breakage, there is no objection, there is no nothing. So you kind of feel like you're listening to a story, and by default you get a little bit more caught up in the story that it's being told, and that's why I think also that energy shifted a little bit towards the Amber camp. Not that I believe that she's right or not. I'm just saying what I perceived, what I felt. Yesterday was much better energy, for instance. Again, I stated for the last time today, I'm interested in the truth, even if I am like leaning Johnny, I'm Team Johnny, so to speak. But, if there were like absolutely clear evidence that he was guilty, for instance, I will change my mind, because in the end you want the truth. You don't want to live in an illusion, you don't want to live in an illusion of how you perceive somebody. You just, you hope that it's not true. You hope that that's not the case, but ultimately you want the truth. That's it. So I wonder what they're going to do tomorrow. Honestly. This is a rerun of yesterday, where Camille she slayed yesterday. She was fantastic. So, and you can't cry. We know you can't cry. We know now. Everybody knows. You know what I was thinking? Because I know that things are never black or white. There are so many nuances and shades in between things. I was thinking, it's not unreasonable to think that a relationship is full of turmoil, and perhaps there were instances where conversation were heightened, where there were like cuss words thrown around, where there was a little bit of rough and tumble in between the two people, like physical contact, pushing and throwing a little bit, and a bit of cussing around and all that kind of jazz, right? It's not unthinkable that a relationship that it's a little bit complicated like that, in between also fueled by different type of drugs or whatever, gets a little bit fired up, gets a little bit like wrong, so to speak, every now and then. But that does not mean that, for instance, those two people, they were like inherently violent to each other, but can you imagine if really something happened a couple of times, because things really got a little bit more out of hand. And of course, that's just, it's enough for once something to happen a little bit that you get like, I don't know, a little bruise or whatever. I mean, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that in a very controversial relationship a little bit, something can happen to a mild degree, you know, where it doesn't necessarily mean that either of the two are like those like lifetime abuser or something, you know. But of course, then when a relationship is over and there are interests at play, then you can just, you know, you can just take this in the context that suits your narrative. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say. So yeah, it could be so, you know, could be so nuanced, can be so complicated, all of this, you know. Maybe some stuff were true to a degree, you know, the codependency, the obsessive compulsiveness of Amber Heard, maybe a little bit of the darkness of Johnny Depp in certain moment of this relationship, whether fueled by drugs or fueled by her obsessive compulsiveness. You know, we don't know exactly how the dynamic of what triggered what in what kind of like timeline happened, you know. But it's not unreasonable to think there could be a lot of all those things. But then after, when you try, when you know, when the outside world tries to make sense of it, because there are claims, because we need to get to a sort of solution, somebody needs to get paid or not get paid, then we sort of like, we are sort of trying to create a timeline to something that perhaps did not have a timeline. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a strange ride for the two of them that left them scarred, both. I don't know, for instance, this is the more, I would say this is the more this is the version where somehow they're both complicit to a degree of things, you know. And then there is the version where one or the two is the main perpetrator of something. And this is, I guess, what we're trying to find out. So my personal belief is that it was complicated and wasn't going so well towards the end, and probably either by her own, by people around her, or suggested by lawyers or other people, she tried to get out of it in a sort of an egalitarian way, because the landscape in the moment where she was an actress, where she was coming up, and also the political moment where she lived through, sort of allowed her perhaps to leverage a type of political narrative that could have made her like somehow better, you know, because by declaring that to be a victim in that like landscape, political landscape of the time, with that heightened sensitivity towards LGBTQ movement and the Me Too movement and so on and so forth, seemed like perhaps a premeditated scheme that in the beginning they thought maybe they would not have this much impact in their lives, and that's why they wrote the op-ed. And then after that they realized, and that's maybe also why she avoided writing full on the name of Johnny Depp in that op-ed, right? If it's my understanding correct. But then, you know, probably they misjudged where it could lead. And then, you know, boom, you start to run with it, it's too late. Once allegations are out, you know, it's too late. You have to run with it. So I think it's a little bit a combination of a misjudgment of trying to run with the egalitarian political propaganda of that kind of moment in time, you know, of the Me Too and so on and so forth. And it just went sideways from there, you know. Thank you, White. I appreciate that. Of course, we're just speculating here. We're just chatting. We're late chatting, you know? Just sharing and thinking a little bit. Yes, exactly. That was funny, Lisa. She literally like, hey, we're gonna have a nice time. We're gonna drink, we're gonna smoke, and we're gonna do drugs together at my wedding. And I'm gonna give my husband that abuses me a nice big knife. Fascinating. Truly fascinating. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna stop for the moment. I'm gonna try to make this other video. I'm gonna try to cut that piece out of the fake crying. Oh man, this woman. Oh man, this woman. Let's pray that her kid, she's gonna grow up well. Otherwise, you're gonna have another messed up. You're gonna have another messed up soul in the wild. Alright, guys, I'm gonna call it a quit. I just want to thank you once again for joining the chat. Go check the trimmed out videos, the little shorts, the little meme reviews. I'm gonna do a meme review of the fresh memes of this evening. So I'll try to post as quickly as possible. I'm really super happy to spend this time with you. Very, very lovely. We make it a little bit more bearable for each other. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you in another video. Check out for the videos coming out, also the short ones. And let me know your thoughts. Suggest stuff if you want to. And drink water. It's very important. Wind down a little bit. Wind down, I mean, not wind down with the wine. Like wind down, like, you know, like chill, relax, just cool off, you know. You can also wind down if you like to. But you get the point. So, all right, everybody. I wish you a good night. Take good care of yourself. Always spread love, like I always say. And see you tomorrow. Good night. Ciao. It's been a pleasure.